cold. Whew. Testing, testing. Can you hear me? Does not say I'm muted. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Testing, testing. For those of you who are just coming on the line, we've got a lot of connectivity issues this morning. I had to drop out of one mastermind that I was participating in, and then had some issues with my first class of the day. So let's hope that you can hear me. If you can hear me, somebody give me a like, a love, a comment, or something, so I know that people can hear me. Let's see. Nope. They dropped off. People are dropping off. All right, let's try it again. Let's try adding myself. How's my mic doing? Nope, it says it's going. Hello, hello, hello. Let's add me. Hello, hello. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you see me? I need somebody to let me know you can hear me and see me. Get me some likes, loves, comments, something. Let me know that you can hear me and that you can see me, and that when I do this, you can see the slides. I need somebody to help me know, because we have had a lot of technical issues this morning with the other two classes. And I think it's just as all the snow melts, like this part of the world is not used to having so much snow, right? So I think there's just some issues with that, with everybody's internet and stuff. So just give me something to let me know that you can see and hear me, and that when I do this, you can see the slides. All right. Just try to do a little pre-check here. Okay. All right. Well, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Hello, everybody. I'm JJ Conway, and I want to welcome you to our first real estate investing meeting of the year. For those of you who wonder about my hesitation about my own meeting, it's for the last 6 years. Building Wealth Together has been our real estate and our entrepreneurial education platform. And this year for 2021, we have split it out. So the real estate is with my upcoming new book named the JJ Conway's DART Method of Real Estate Investing. And the Building Wealth Together is the entrepreneurial and mindset training. And so this is the first time that we've split them out. And so if you hear me as we go throughout this year, kind of stumble a little bit and say Building Wealth Together instead of DART Method of Real Estate Investing, please give me a little bit of grace. Yes, it's my book. Yes, it's my title. Yes, it's my method, but it's just going to take some time to break those old 6 years of habits of saying Building Wealth Together. So let me start over. I'm JJ Conway, and I want to welcome you to my DART Method of Real Estate Investing. You are going to love what we have for you today. We are going to cover an introduction to over 20 different ways that you can make money in real estate without even buying the house for most of them. And more importantly for me, without having to go into more debt. Let's take a look at what we have here today. Now, before we get into the meat of today's meeting, I do want to talk a little bit about what Building Wealth Together is. I guess I need to update my slides because that should say the DART Method of Real Estate Investing. But we are going to talk about it because it's really the same company. It's just a different division now. But we're going to talk about the overview of how we work. And we're going to talk about real estate investing. You know what? In fact, what we're going to do, this is the slide that I actually meant to show you first. Wait. For those of you who are new to me, okay? Oh man, I know some of you are new to my body of work. For those of you who are new to me, our real estate investing 101 class is a fundraiser for Global Youth Initiative. Okay. So when I do real estate investing 101, there's 2 reasons that I make the introductory class free. Like any speaker, I hope you're going to want to dig deeper and that you're going to want to walk with me in a year-long journey to learn more information about each of these methods of real estate, okay? But the other reason that I do Real Estate Investing 101 and the other reason that I keep it free for the entire year is because it is a fundraiser for Global Youth Initiative. Okay. So I'm asking you to do me a favor and walk in integrity. And if you decide to screenshot slides, which I hope you won't without making a donation, but if you decide to use this information or if it blesses you, I encourage you to make a donation to ministerwiggins@gmail.com on PayPal. You can go to bit.ly/lovehelping. And I guess I need to add it on here. I also have a Cash App. Cash App and PayPal.me are both queen of cash flow. Okay. So we will open up the line for questions at the end. If you have questions, put them in the chat. If you're watching, oh man, I forgot to, hang on, y'all. I forgot to do the free conference call. Whoops. Okay. Well, you know what? I don't think I told anybody about that, but let me just get my phone real quick, y'all. Please forgive me. I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be so unorganized. Hang on. Well, that's totally embarrassing. That is so embarrassing. All right. I may just have to do this over again just so I have a good recording. I'm so sorry, y'all. Hold on. Let me put it back on me for a second. Okay. You know what? We just gonna start over. We are just gonna start over. Okay, so what's happened is over the last year, we've had a lot of different changes. We tried to use Zoom, we tried to do this, we tried to do that. We've got the new AirMeet, we got all these things. And for 6 years, my classes have been over the phone using free conference call. Okay. So I totally forgot today to set up the free conference call for people who are trying to listen to this for free conference call, because we've been doing that for years. So even though I told everybody we're moving it to Facebook, there's still people who might be on there. So let me just go ahead.
We're choosing freeconferencecall.com.
All right.
We're helping people around the world to.
All right. So let me just get that set up and we're going to get right into it, guys. I'm telling you, I promise it'll be worth it. Okay. I promise it'll be worth it. If you want to learn how to go into real estate investing without going into more debt, you need this class. All right. Okay. All right. Good. Okay. Okay, so the recording has started. For the people who are on free conference call, they should be able to hear it. Hey, if you're on free conference call, thank you for your patience. I totally forgot that I forgot to set this up. So here we go. Okay, we're going to start over. We are going to start over, y'all. I'm sorry. We making changes, we make changes, and that's just how life goes, right? So, we just have to roll with it, and we have to just kind of laugh at ourselves sometimes and just keep on going. Okay. So for this time, we're really going to get started. Third time's a charm, right? Okay. Let me get back on there. Okay. All right. This time we're really going to get started. Okay. Hey, everybody. It's JJ Conway, and I want to welcome you to my DART method of real estate investing. Today, we are going to cover Real Estate Investing 101, and we have a treat for you today. Now, before we get into the specifics of real estate investing, I do want to talk a little bit about our group and what we've been doing over the last 6 years and what we're going to be doing in 2021. And I'm going to tell you right now, this lesson that we're going to talk about today is the springboard for you if you want to dump debt and build wealth through real estate investing. You know, some of us get gut punched later in life, and I'm going to tell my story a little later, so I'm not going to go into it right now, but we get gut punched later in life, and we don't have 50, 60 years to drop $100 a month into the market and make millions when we retire, okay? If you're 20 years old starting out today and you drop $100, $200 a month into the market, you're going to retire a multimillionaire easy peasy. But when life knocks you down in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, you don't have that kind of time, but you still can achieve financial independence through real estate investing. And my DART method of real estate investing will help you be able to do this without adding more debt to your bottom line. That's what I'm all about. I want you to get out of debt and stay out of debt and build wealth so that you can leave a legacy. All right, now let's go into our slides today. Now, what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk a little bit about the overview of our group. And for those of you who are new to the group, okay, for those of you who are new to the group, you're going to be like, what is this building wealth together? I'm going to explain that in just a second. All right. But we're going to talk about building wealth together. We're going to talk about real estate investing 101. I'm going to give you an opportunity to dig deeper. Okay. And then we'll have some Q&A at the end. Now, those of you who are on free conference call listening in, we will open that up for you at the end. Those of you who are watching live through Facebook or YouTube, you will be able to add your comments, and all of those comments should go into my comments feed here, and I will be able to answer them as we go. We'll do that probably at the end because I don't want to get distracted and leave something out, or maybe we'll do it at the end of each section. Okay. So when we get to talking about tax sales, if you have a question about tax sales, drop it in. And when I'm done talking about tax sales, before we go on to the next topic, we'll do that. Okay. So real quick, I just want to talk a little bit about building wealth together. And I've got a few slides there, but for those of you who are new, for the last 6 years, Building Wealth Together has been my platform for financial and investment education. And we've done entrepreneurial education, we've done mindset work, and we do real estate investing. And so from April to about, I don't know, maybe about September, we would do a series on real estate investing, and the rest of the year would be entrepreneurial. Well, the real estate investing has grown so much that we now have more topics than we can even cover in a year. And the entrepreneurial education has also grown so much that we have more topics than we can cover in a year. So what I've done in 2021 is I've split them out. So we've got Building Wealth Together, and we've got the DART method of real estate investing. Okay. And so you may see some references to the overarching Building Wealth Together on my slides, but we'll get those cleaned up as the year progresses. Okay. I really appreciate you being with me through this transition. A couple of you I know have been with me since the beginning, that first little class that I taught from my kitchen table. And I really, really appreciate you. You have been so much a blessing to me as you've walked with me to this journey. Okay. So before we dig into it, I do want to note every year, the annual all day long real estate investing workshop, which I'm not sure if we're going to do in April this year, is a Global Youth Initiative fundraiser. So what I normally do is I normally teach this class in April. It's a fundraiser for the Global Youth Initiative. That's how I make the money to bring the John Maxwell content to the community at no charge to the kids. So when we take them to Sideport and we do the youth leadership expo, and then they get to make the ice cream and they get to play in Sideport the rest of the day, they don't have to pay for that. Their parents don't have to pay for that because you all have donated. Okay. And so there's a couple different ways you can do that, and I'm going to flash them up throughout the class. Okay. You can go to PayPal. You can use ministerwiggins at Gmail. You can go to bit.ly/lovehelping. You can also do, I don't have it on the slide, but you can also do Cash App, Queen of Cash Flow. And that'll get, and make sure you put in the comments that it's for Global Youth Initiative, because, I love to shop. And if you don't tell me what it's for, I might think you're contributing to the JJ Conway Shoe Fund. Seriously though, what Building Wealth Together is, in addition to supporting youth programs that enhance STEM, leadership, communication, diversity, things like that, what Building Wealth Together is we are a get rich right group. We're not a get rich quick group. Now you can build wealth quickly in this group, but we are not an easy button. We're not a buy into this business opportunity and next year you're going to be a multimillionaire. There are a lot of legit ways to get rich, and we want to empower you to find the way that works the best with your personality so that you can improve your life, you can improve your children's life, your future generations, or the communities that you care about. Okay. We believe in education, ethics, and accountability, and we help you with financial investment and entrepreneurial education. I like to say that building wealth together is solutions, not a sales pitch. All right. Our monthly meetings, the monthly main meeting is always free. However, there are benefits to joining us as a member. One of those benefits is open mic at the meetings. And let me just check real quick to see if any of our paid members are on the line today. They're not, so I'm not going to bring them into they're not in the studio. You also get access to the recordings. So this is going to be posted on our Facebook page. This is going to be posted in our Facebook group for a day or two, and then it'll be taken down. And if you would like the recording, you can join as a member. I think we give you a really, really good value, right? But if you're a member, not only do you get to advertise your business at our meetings through the open mic, right? You also get the recordings. And when I come out with new classes, you get to try them free. And if you're on Meetup, I got a super cool title for you, right? A lot of people are moving off of Meetup with the whole COVID thing. So I don't know how much that matters, but in any event, it's fun. Okay. We also have sponsorship opportunities. If your business would like to sponsor, let me know, because you also get open mic at the meetings and you get your logo displayed on our slide. I'm always ever grateful to those who helped us get started. And so our lifetime sponsors down here at the bottom, Floater by Nature's Oil, Steel Bayou. I'm always going to give those two organizations a shout out, whether or not they're ever members again or ever step through my doors again, because I wouldn't be where I am without the support of those business owners. Okay. Architects Leadership Institute, my son's website, my son's YouTube channel. Y'all, Philly Bob PK is an official paid sponsor of this is his little business expense, y'all, of building wealth together and the DART method of real estate investing. And then we also have Hand Ups Not Handouts, which focuses on empowerment and accountability. All right, again, this is our annual Global Youth Initiative fundraiser. Any size, you drop me a Cash App $5, I will appreciate it, and so will these kids. All right, so here's what we are going to talk about today. We are going to talk about 20 different ways that you can profit with real estate investing. Okay. There are a lot of ways. And if you'll notice with this list, these are now we're not going to dig in. We only got a little bit of time. We don't have the time to dig into all of these. But like I said before, we are going to have breakout classes throughout the year. And each one of these groupings of topics we're going to cover. So we're going to have a whole class on next month is going to be wholesaling and bird dogging. How do you drive for dollars and things like that? Okay. We're going to talk about foreclosures. We're going to talk about tax sales. We're going to talk about private lending. We're going to talk about subject to. It's my new favorite way to buy something is subject to, right? We're going to talk about all these kinds of different things. Okay. And if you'll notice in this list, all right, these that I have, for those of you who are listening on free conference call, you can't see it, but I've got a list of over 20 different ways to profit. And most of them are now highlighted in blue, which mean you can make money in these methods without actually buying the property. All right. And of these methods that you can do without buying the property, if I drop it down even further, these are some that you can get started in without having any money. So, when we think about getting out of debt, right? A lot of people will tell you, well, you got to have money to make money. And a lot of people will tell you got to go into debt to make money. But one of the biggest, there's all this stat about, 95% of new businesses fail when in the first 5 years. Well, part of why they fail is because they start off with so much debt, they can never climb out from under it. Okay. And so I want to encourage you to get started in your real estate investing career in ways that are not going to hurt your family's bottom line. It's bad enough that you're going to take time, energy, and attention away from your family to do this. Okay. That's enough of an impact on your family. You want to build wealth, not build debt. All right. You want to build wealth, not grow into bondage. All right. So let me tell you a little about who I am and why I think I've got something to say about all this stuff, right? I have been a financial coach since 1998 when Larry Burkett helped me get out of debt. I could not afford his $8 cassette tape class on getting out of debt, so he mailed it to me free and made me promise I would help somebody else with the content once I got out of debt, which I got out of debt in 1998, the first time. And so the first time, yeah, there's a story there. So I enjoyed it. I realized it was something I like to do. I've done it. I've helped people get out of debt in a volunteer capacity since 1998. We transitioned to building wealth together and a paid capacity back in 2014. And I've been investing in real estate ever since buying my first home, the first home that I either lived in at all, let alone bought in 1999. Unfortunately, we got the real estate investing bug and we did what everybody else does, and we lost everything because we did what everybody else does, and we thought we would leverage other people's money, OPM, and we got back into debt. And then when my marriage and everything fell apart, when the dust settled, I discovered that my ex had over leveraged our properties and pulled out more debt, more home equity loans than the properties were worth. And so when the dust settled, I was stuck with $845,000 of divorce debt. So like Farmers Insurance, I know a thing or two about getting out of debt, y'all. And so now I empower others to improve their lives through financial and real estate education. And my big why for years has been that my boys were never going to have to live like I had to live back in those early days of $845,000 of debt. I really do need to update this slide now because my big why now is about changing communities. I really feel that I have a calling on my life to change communities. And I think that many of you who follow my work also have a calling on your life to change communities. And this is a method that you can change communities while at the same time building wealth. So this is a way for you to make money, making a difference, not only in your life, but in the lives of those who you impact through your real estate investing. And we're going to talk more about that as we get into the class today. So what is JJ Conway's DART method of real estate investing? Well, many of you know I teach people how to get out of debt and stay out of debt, right? That's my thing. Most real estate gurus and courses are going to teach you how to leverage debt. Well, now that does work. It does work in certain situations, but it creates massive stress in most situations. And for a lot of people, it leads to bankruptcy. Now, what I don't have on the slide here, for those of you who are watching it via video, what I don't have on the slide here is that leveraging debt to invest in real estate also leads a lot of investors to do things that are inconsistent with their moral values. Because when you have a bunch of properties that have a lot of debt on them and your renters stop paying because of COVID, now you all of a sudden are stressing out because you got to find a way to pay those mortgages. And I don't want that for anybody on my watch to go out who's a client of building wealth together to go out and take those stresses and those headaches into their lives. When you invest in real estate without taking on more debt, you sleep better at night, you have more peace, more confidence, and you're able to go forward. And if something goes wrong, it doesn't devastate your family's future. It's just a little blip in an otherwise great day. All right. So that's why I'm so passionate about investing in real estate without all the debt. I mean, you did hear what I said on the other slide, right? $845,000 of divorce debt. And it's taken me 11 years to get to where I'm no longer in the red. So for me, I'm all about debt avoidance, restructure, or transfer. And that's what DART stands for: debt avoidance, restructure, or transfer. So right now, as we get into it, let's start with a little foundation. Okay. There's a lot of different ways to profit for real estate. The reason that I like real estate is, one, there's a way to profit from real estate that matches almost every personality out there. Even if you don't want to deal with tenants and toilets, right? The other thing I like about real estate is that the property itself is of value, and you can make money from the property. You can make money from owning the property. You can make money from controlling the property. And like I said, maybe you don't like tenants and toilets. Maybe you don't want to deal with roofs and walkways. Okay. But there are also industries related to investing that you could profit from. Maybe you can provide a real estate service like brokerage, property management. You could be a realtor. You could be a title not title attorney. I mean, you could be, I mean, don't get me wrong, but man, what am I looking for? Appraiser. That's what I was looking for. You can do a trade. Maybe you're good with your hands, or maybe you have an instinct about wiring or systems, mechanical systems. Not everybody got a talent for that. You got a talent for that. There's a way to make some real good money in real estate investing by connecting with other investors. And then also, there's also room for making money in the extra touches of real estate investing. So people who stage or people who do photography, you can really bring a room to life so that the potential buyer can see their life in it. Okay. Then you have all these extra ancillary services that go along with real estate, such as placing vending machines in places. Okay. It sounds simple, but it really can add up to a lot of money. And so while it's sound wisdom to diversify, I have found as a financial planner that real estate is one of the best ways for people to build and maintain wealth, especially if life has knocked you down and you have to get yourself back up in a hurry. You have a devastating divorce in your 50s or 60s. You don't have 30 years to rebuild your wealth to, 6, 7, 8 figures. Okay. You got to do something a little extra. But the good news about it is it doesn't have to take a lifetime if you harness the value of real estate investing. That's why I love this stuff, y'all. Now, I'm going to tell you, as a financial planner, real estate is really the only ethical, repeatable way that I have actually eyeballs on eyeballs seen people build financial independence in as little as 3 years. There are a lot of other people who have done it in other business opportunities, and they've said they've done it, but I have not seen their tax returns. I have not seen their financial status. All I know is they bounce from business to business to business, and I'm not going to knock that if it works for them, but that doesn't always work for everybody. I have found that real estate, the things that I'm going to teach you today, can work for everybody. Okay. And so I have also found in my financial planning career that exciting and sexy ventures rarely lead to long-term wealth. In fact, a lot of people I know, they actually end up worse, and they come to me because they're like, okay, I did this and and I just got worse, and I need help to climb out of this hole. I don't want you to have to climb out of a debt hole. I want you to blossom and bloom and build wealth. Okay. You say, well, I've been burned by real estate in the past. I've been burned by real estate in the past. I know, my mom has been burned by real estate in the past. This person or that person has been burned by real estate in the past. So I'm going to show you how to not get burned by real estate, no matter which method you choose. And whether you don't take anything else from my talk today, I want you to take from my talk today the number one rule of real estate investing. If you follow this rule, you will be successful. And what is the number one rule of real estate investing? The number one rule of real estate investing is you make your money when you buy. In fact, it's so important, I think I'll say it again. You make your money when you buy. Let me say it one more time for those in the back, y'all. You make your money when you buy. Okay. If you get a property at 70 to 80% of cost, that property is going to make you money if you buy it properly, whether you keep it or another investor gets it, however the deal goes down. If you get a property about 70 to 80% cost to value, it will make you money. It's simple. It's super simple. That's a simple rule to follow, isn't it? But it's not easy. I mean, if it was easy, everybody would be rich, right? It's just like getting healthier is simple, but we don't do it. Why don't we do it? It's simple, but it's not easy. Real estate investing is actually very simple, but it's not easy. And so we all have to start somewhere. And I'm going to encourage you today. If you want to take your life to the next level, you find a place that starts with you, that works with you, your personality, your time, the amount of commitment you can make. And what I've got here for you today is the time money continuum. This is a little chart that I put together that is based on the concept that some investors have more time than money, and some investors have more money than time. And as you go in your real estate investing career and you have more properties in a bigger portfolio, you spend your time doing more. You spend your time doing more of the magic of making the deal happen, and you have less available time to do the groundwork. And so when you're starting off in your real estate career, however, you don't have such a big portfolio. You need to learn about real estate. You have the time and you need the education. So what I recommend for a lot of people who have no money or no credit, they generally also have a lot more time. Start with the things that investors who have more time than money do. You are basically doing more of the groundwork and the research, and you are being compensated for that by the investors who have more money than they have available time. Okay. Remember, this is our fundraiser for the Global Youth Initiative. So make sure you send a little donation, $5, $10, $20, ministerwiggins@gmail.com, or you can go to bit.ly/lovehelping. Okay. So when you have, like I said earlier, when you have no money and no experience, you have more time than money, you have no savings, your credit's trashed, then where I recommend you start is on that far side of the continuum, that bird dogging and wholesaling. Okay. Now, bird dogging, and this is interesting. Okay. I don't know how many of you have heard of this concept before. The first time I heard of this, I thought it was ridiculous. Like, who on earth would actually do this? Okay. I want you to just kind of, if you're new to this idea, just kind of hang with me for a second and kind of suspend for a minute the need to know how it works. And just let me explain to you the principle. Okay. Next month, we're going to go into more detail into the how and the nitty gritty, but hang with me for a second. Okay. This is how a lot of people get started in real estate investing. It's called bird dogging. It's based on the concept that the bird dog, when you're out duck hunting, the bird dog's going to go out there and flush out the ducks, and then they're going to bring it back to you. All right. Bird dogs get paid a nice fee for finding properties that another investor ends up buying. Okay. What you do in bird dogging is you build up an investor list. And then whenever you find a property that they like, you bring that property to your investor list. And if they buy the property, you get compensated for your time, 1 to 3% of the deal. Okay. Some states like Florida forbid this. Okay. So then you have to get creative about how you get paid. In some states like that, you can get paid as a lead generator, and you might get some of the equity. I know for me, when I started off investing, I paid everybody $5 a property, whether I bought that property later or not. You brought me an address of a property that looked like it might be friendly to an investor, I would pay you $5. I would pay you $25. I would pay you $25 if you brought me the address of the property and you've done the research to find out who's the owner's name and number. Like that, I would just do that for everybody, just to make everything straight, because I was a realtor, and realtors had you had certain things you couldn't do. Okay. So those were my lead generators. We try to do everything in decency and order, right? Well, this is bird dogging. Now, bird dogging is great if you're getting started. You don't know much about real estate because you're still learning. But I'm going to tell you, I rather people kind of start with what's called wholesaling. And wholesaling is like bird dogging, but it's been up leveled. They've added a little emeralds to it, right? Bam, we'll take it to the next level. All right. What a wholesaler does is they not only find a property that another investor is going to end up buying, but they find a property that's a juicy deal, and they do the negotiation with the owner to lock down a price, and then they come out with a contract. So let me put it back on me here for a second. So in a wholesaling deal, I see a house that looks like it's overgrown. Nobody looks like they're taking care of it. I approach the owner. Owner's health is failing. They really want to move, but they can't get out of this house. It needs too much work. The realtor won't help them sell it, right? I say, oh, I can help you. I think I can get your house sold for, $50,000. The owner says, really? Well, all I really need is 45. This is fantastic. And so we sign a contract for $50,000. I'm going to buy their house for $50,000, but I put language in my contract that says I can assign that contract to anybody else. And then I go and take it to the investor world. And I go say, hey, investors, I got this house. If you fix it up, it's going to need about $20,000 worth of work. If you fix it up, it's worth $100,000, but you can get it for 70. You can get it for the 50,000 plus the 20 you got to put into it, makes 70. But when you do all the work, it's worth 100. I'm going to tell you right now, if you've got a property like that, any investor will buy it so fast. And so the way you make your money is by building in your price. Okay. The owner told me he would take 45. I make a contract for 50. I get paid 5 at closing. Okay. So This is a very, very, very powerful method, because what you have done as a wholesaler is you have saved the investor who ultimately buys the house a huge amount of time and energy in finding and locking down the deal. You don't have to own the property. You don't have to close on the property. You are facilitating the transaction, and you are getting well paid 3 to 5% of the deal for your time. Now, the way to help this is to really build up an investor network and also get a good understanding of what it takes to work on a property. Now, if you are looking for a place, I guess I need to update these slides, because I have references now in Louisiana. I have references in the DC area, the DMV there. I have references there. I have references in several different markets here in Texas. If you are interested in this method, if you're interested in getting started being a wholesaler, I encourage you to learn from somebody who has. All right, so before I go into tax sales, let me just check the comments real quick to see if we've got anybody who is asking a question. Okay, I don't see any questions in the comments on what we've covered thus far, so I'm going to go ahead into tax sales. Now, I'm probably not going to make this big of a pause in between sections anymore. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, if I'm talking about a topic and you have a question on that topic, go ahead and put it in the comments, and I'll get to it before I move on to the next topic. But if I don't see it, I may forget to stop and tell you, put a comment in. So I'm just telling you now, put a comment in, okay? But we're going to go ahead now, and we're going to talk about tax sales. I love tax sales. I love tax sales. Okay. When I was in Louisiana, I didn't know if I was going to, I didn't think I was going to stay in Louisiana. That's for sure. But I didn't know I was going to love Shreveport so much. And I started off with tax sales because it was a lower cost investment. And so let me talk a little bit about tax sales and how they work. Okay. Tax sales come in 3 different flavors: liens, deeds, and certificates, and it depends on where you live, which kind of tax sales your jurisdiction does. All right. The general premise is the same, whether it's a tax, lien, deed, or certificate. The general premise is that when people aren't paying their property tax, those counties or parishes still need to pay their cops, and they still need to keep the schools running, and they still need to take care of the roads and all those kinds of things, right? And so the way they get the money that they're missing out on because you didn't pay your property tax is they sell your property tax at a tax sale. They'll give you, as the owner, an opportunity to redeem the property, and you can pay that tax, right? And you can pay a little extra. But what's happening on the investor side of it now, if you're an investor, you're buying this tax sale, you're buying this tax at the tax sale. The county, the parish, the jurisdiction now has the money they need to keep paying the cops to keep us all safe, right? I should have taken that out of my script with the current situation. Oh boy, I'm going to lose. I'm going to go back on Facebook, and I'll have lost like 20% of my viewers right now. Okay, so let me get back on track. The jurisdiction sells your tax. You owe a homeowner owns $1,000 of tax on their house. The jurisdiction needs that $1,000. They sell the tax to an investor. The investor pays the $1,000. The firemen, the teachers, all of them still get their paycheck. The investor now has this interest in the property. And if the homeowner redeems it, the investor makes their money back, plus extra for their time and trouble. Now, in some jurisdictions, there's different ways to do it. You know, you can buy the certificate, you can buy a lien against the property, you might buy a house voucher to redeem the property, or pay a certain amount to the county or the jurisdiction. It just depends. Okay. And so there's different ways to do it. And now for those of you who have done this before, you're going to notice that I have simplified this. Okay. And in fact, that's a pretty important point to talk about with all of these methods. So let me just kind of qualify that here. Those of you, because I've had this happen, I've had experienced investors come to my class, and they've been like, well, what about this and this and that and that? And I'm like, this is a beginner class. Okay. We're not getting into esoteric and exotic and complex strategies. All of these things that I'm talking about today, you could spend a lifetime perfecting your craft. But those aren't the people that I'm necessarily speaking to in this class. Okay. Because out of a wide swath of people who need to dump debt, build wealth, and leave a legacy, a wide swath of people, they may do this or that. And maybe this many people, okay, out of this many folks that come to my class, maybe this many are going to use some strategies to help get out of debt. And then maybe this many are going to be like, wow, I really liked that. I'm going to keep doing it. Okay. And then maybe this many are going to pick an area and they're going to say, I'm going to dig deep, deep, deep into that area. And that's going to be my thing. You know, some investors do a lot of different things and some investors really focus down. But my class today is for the wide grouping of people who are new. So some of these techniques I'm simplifying a little bit because I want to appeal to a broader nature of people, because it's going to take time in doing to find out which ones really work for you. As you're going to find out if you dig deeper with me, some of these things that I thought were going to be perfect for my personality, they were not. Okay. And so we just have to know that there's a lot more of details that go into all these. But just for today's purposes, I've explained the reason behind tax sales. Okay. The county still got to pay people. They need the money. Okay. And this is how they get the money. But here's the different kinds of ways that they can do it. So some states do tax liens. So when I was in Maryland, they did tax liens. When you as an investor pay for the tax, you get a lien against that property. If the owner of the property doesn't redeem it, you foreclose on the property after redemption to get your money back. Now, if you don't get your money back, you get the property. But 9 times out of 10, there are other lien holders like the bank who's going to make sure you get your money back. Okay. So that's one type. All right. Another type is tax deeds. You actually get the deed to the house. And then after a certain period of time, a redemption period of time, you can evict whoever's in there because now it's your house. Okay. It was your house when you bought the tax deed, but you have to give them an opportunity to redeem it. Okay. Tax certificates, this is what they do in Louisiana, and it's the only state I've lived in where they've done it this way, that you get part ownership in the property. Okay. And if you take my tax sales class, we'll actually go into more detail on that, because what you're bidding isn't the price of what you're paying. What you're bidding is how much ownership you want in the house. And it'll go down to the lowest, whoever wants the lowest amount, who's willing to pay the whole tax for the lowest amount of ownership in the property. Okay. So you have to do some little machinations to quiet the title after the redemption period is over. But you know, one of my tax certificates I made, I think it was like 40%, 39%. Because they waited almost 3 years to redeem it. That was wonderful. All right. Tax sales is a pennies on the dollar strategy. That's how it gets advertised on late night TV, right? Oh, you're going to get this property for pennies on the dollar, right? And you see that a lot on late night TV, but I want to let you know, tax sales is actually, generally speaking, an interest generating thing. I'm going to pay my money to buy this, and then I'm going to get my money back with interest. Okay. That's what happens more likely in tax sales. If you get the property, that's like a bonus, but that's very rarely the case. Okay. It's not never the case. You know, I'd say maybe 1 out of 12, maybe. Okay. The biggest thing about tax sales, and you're going to see this all over the place, but the biggest thing is about tax sales is you definitely want to do your research. I've listed down here Ned Carey. He's the one that taught me when I was living in Maryland. He's the one that taught me what I learned first about tax liens. He's a very good expert that he's very likable that you can find, and he's somebody that can help you out. Okay. So the next one we're going to talk about is new construction. This is not as popular a technique right now, but I'm going to cover it anyway, because with the way that the market is shifting, I don't know that it's not going to become a popular technique soon. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about new construction. The premise behind new construction as an investment technique. Okay. So I'm going to explain the process. And again, for those of you who are experiencing this, I am generalizing this down a little bit to the basic level. For those who want more details, we can get more into the nitty gritty. But at a basic 30,000 foot level, looking down, the way that new construction works that is relevant to someone who wants to invest and make money is that each new construction project gets built in phases. So when a developer wants to take a tract of land and they want to turn it into a community, they want to go to the bank with their plans, and they want to go to the bank with as much buy-in as possible from people around. The more that they can bring to the table when they go to the bank, the more that they're going to get from the bank to build this project. And most of these big projects are done in phases. So you'll have the initial phase where it's the groundbreaking and they sell the initial houses that nobody's even seen yet. And then they might have the next phase where there's maybe a prospect house on there and people can see it. Okay. Each phase of the construction generally is going to start with, it's generally going to cost more. So if I'm a builder, okay, I'm a builder, I need to go to the bank and I need the bank to want to give me some money so I can build this big project. I'm going to go out and put some feelers out. I'm going to get some plans drawn up. I'm going to approach my close circle or people that I know. And I'm going to say, here's my new project. Would you like to buy a house that I'm going to build in here? Okay. So then people do that and they go to the bank and say, here's my project. Here's the people that have already invested. Here's what we're going to do. And the bank says, oh, this looks good. We're going to give you this much money, but we're going to give it to you in phases. As you complete this phase, we'll give you more for that phase, for more for that phase. And each phase is going to cost more. When it's just dirt and I haven't broken ground yet, I'm going to give you the best possible deal. Okay. And so that reason that works for investors is the property values go up as more gets built. So I might invest with a new community before they've broken ground, and my price for that house may be $100,000. But now a year later, they've got a prospect house up, or they've got people buying into the community. You get 2 or 3 houses. Now the houses might cost $110,000. And then a year from then, maybe they've got a couple streets built out and now they're moving on to their next phase. Now the properties are $120,000. So you can see how the prices go up like that. Okay. So there's 2 ways an investor can really harness the power of new construction. The first one, and again, this is one that I don't see as much anymore. When I first started investing back in 99, you didn't have as many, you didn't have the relationships with realtors and developers that you have today. And so you didn't have a lot of developers listing their own pre-construction properties the way they are today. Okay, so I don't see this as often today, but there are still, when you deal with individual small builders, you do see some of this. Okay, so method number 1 is to flip for equity. I buy into your property at phase 0, which is pre-construction, or phase 1 when you've got the first row of houses going up. I put down a small down payment, and then before the house is complete and it's time for me to close on it, I assign the contract or sell it to somebody else. Now, the reason that this has worked in the past, and the reason it can still sometimes work as today, is because I'm banking on the fact that the property values are going to climb as more and more properties are built. So I put my $1,000 down today. I secure that tract of land. The developer starts doing this, doing that. In about a year, maybe they're actually building. And in about another year, maybe my house is about to be done. But by now, people have seen it. They're like, oh, look at this new community. Oh, I want to live here. And now the property values have gone up $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, depending on your market. So what I do then is I sell my interest in the property. Another family buys the property, and I make the spread on what the property was worth when I put my $1,000 down and what the property's worth when it's almost done. Okay. That's method number 1. Now, another method, and I've got to admit, those of you who've been in my my class for a number of years, you remember how frustrated I was that I did not agree with this when my friend first did it, right? But she made it work, and she was financially independent in 12 years, y'all. So another thing you can do with new construction, another thing you can do with new construction, let me show you this, is you can hold it for rental. So you buy a brand new house or buy a brand new condo and you use it as a rental. Now, I did just tell you the number 1 rule of real estate investing, right? You make your money when you buy a property that is such a discount that you have already profited when you sign your name on the dotted line. That is what I told you, right? So this goes all in the face of that, right? But the reason that this can work sometimes is because when you have a brand new rental, you're expecting to have low maintenance costs, and it's usually in a more desirable area. So if you buy early enough, you can still end up having that appreciation if it works. Okay. So this is a little bit of a gamble, and I don't like people to really gamble, but you're now in a new area that's more attractive to renters. And especially if you can turn it into corporate housing, you can make really good bank with this method. Okay. So that's new construction. And like I said, I had a friend who did this, and she did her first property. Y'all, I was so mad at her. She did her first property, and she turned it into a corporate, like an executive condo. And so she took something that she was paying maybe 1,500 a month for, which is why I was mad, because this was back in the day. We were all broke back then, right? She was paying 1,500 a month for this condo, but she was renting it out for 4,000 a month. All right. And then she two or 3 years later, she bought another one and another one and another one. And then the first one was paid for. So I think in the span of 12 years, she had 3 of them paid for and then one more. And she was like, I have all the money I need now, because she's making $4,000 a month off of 3 properties. And this was 20 years ago. So I mean, 12,000 a month plus another one about to be paid off. That's pretty good right back then, right? I mean, it's still good today. So don't knock some of these things, okay? Just find what works for you. I've never lived in a place where I could do that, but it worked for her. All right, flipping. This is what everybody talks about on late night TV. We all see, flipping, make money, easy money, hand over fist, make $100,000 on your first deal with no experience. Have y'all seen those commercials? I know I have. What flipping is you buy a discounted property, you fix it up, and you quickly resell it for profit. I've got to tell you, you got to watch out for these "it's so easy" infomercial systems, okay? I encourage you to watch some of the more realistic shows like Flip This House or Flipping Boston. They show a lot of the things that can go wrong. There's another one that's kind of shown, I forget, is it Windy City? There's one out there right now where the lady, her partner's like stolen off with all the money. And so that's a very realistic thing. Although her flips aren't necessarily realistic for most of my audience, but the problems are. Okay. So when you're flipping, wise flippers are going to consider more than just the cost of the property. Okay. You're going to think about the fact that you've got holding costs. So how much do you have to pay every month while you're working on the property? What are the taxes? And then they plan for Murphy to show up. They plan for the fact that, you know what? A lot of these properties, you end up with mold, or you end up with this, or you end up with that. Okay. When you're flipping, you basically want to make money on the spread between what you can buy it for and fix it for and then sell it for. Okay. In order for this to work, you got to maintain a solid investor network. And if the numbers on the property work, like I was saying earlier, the property will sell fast. Now, I want to give you a flipping example, and you'll notice, if those of you who are watching via the slides, and you will notice that I have on here that the way this flip went down is not my preferred method of raising funds, okay? But this was a pivotal example in my life, and that's why I like to share it with you all. Okay. This particular investor of this property raised $150,000 from private lenders, including myself. I talk more about private lending in Private Lending 101. Okay. This is no longer my preferred method of raising funds, y'all, but this is what we did. Is we all chipped in, and she bought this house, and she used our money to renovate this house. She bought it for $93,000 in May. Okay. She spent about $50,000 on the renovation. Okay. And in October, she listed the house for $204,000. Okay. You can see what a beautiful transformation that this property was. Okay. And so if the property sells at this price that you want, even a little less, right, it still represents a really great deal for the investors, because she would pay us back our $150K, right? She would pay us back our $150K. Then she would pay us back the 12% interest that she promised us. And that leaves her with a profit in just 5 months. I thought I updated this slide from last year. I think my math might be off here. I thought I updated this, and I guess I went back to the old one or something when I redid it for Dart. Okay, sorry about that. But the problem with this property is, not only was my math bad on the last slide, but it still represents a really good value, right? Not only was my math bad on the last slide, but this property didn't sell. It didn't sell, y'all. It didn't sell. It just sat there and sat there and sat there for a year. And it finally sold for $189,000. And what this person had done was they overbuilt for the neighborhood. These pictures that you can see, for those of you who are watching the video, this house is drop dead gorgeous. But they overbuilt for the neighborhood. And sometimes you can really overdo it. And it's so sad. I don't know if anybody who's watching today was on my original class when we did this, but I discovered this. I was so proud of this house. Like when we first got it on the market, I was so excited, right? Like I was like, yay. It was my first actual foray back into real estate investing after the divorce. So this was maybe a year or two into the divorce, and I had finally paid off all the consumer debt. All I had left was the real estate debt. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to scrounge up some money and I'm going to jump into somebody's deal. And that's how I'm going to start the snowball of debt reduction, because I knew real estate was powerful, but I didn't have the cash to really invest myself. Right. So I jumped in and I'm teaching the class. Okay. I'm teaching this class and I go into the Maryland database and I bring up the comps and I show people, because I'm teaching people how to do real estate. I'm teaching people, this is part of how I made my money to get out of debt. Right. I mean, I wasn't doing it, but I had done it. Right. I'd done it in the past. So I'm teaching people and I'm showing them and you hear, if I can ever get that recording, you'll hear my voice drop. I'm like, oh man. And what I hadn't told my students was that it was my property. I mean, it wasn't my property. It was the investor's property, but I had chipped into it. And so I say, oh man. And one of the students is like, yeah, that investor overbuilt for that neighborhood. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, yeah, that investor really overbuilt for that neighborhood. And then when it finally sold, y'all, she took off with our money. She took off with our money, but you know what it did for me? It made me realize, you know what? I can do this. I don't need to jump into somebody else's deal. I can do this. Okay. And so that's flipping. And I want to encourage you today that you can do this. So I'm going to go back to that slide real quick. And I'm going to answer this question. It says, so were you upset with your friend? That is an excellent question. So here's the cool thing about this whole situation, okay? The person who brought all of us together, let me put it back on me for a second. The person who brought us all together was not actually let me say it again. The person who brought us all together was my friend. The investor who used all of our money, I did not know personally. Okay. But what the person who got us all together did, she had a business and I said, well, I want my money back. And she's like, well, we can't get our money back. I'm trying to go into court to get the money back. I'm trying to do what I can do. And I was like, well, how do I go about getting my money back? She's like, well, look, since I'm the one that brought you to the table, how about I give you my services for however long it takes for you to make up the money that you lost. And I was like, I really needed my money, y'all. Like you did catch that I was $800,000 in debt, right? But I mean, by then I had paid off, I think 120 of it was consumer debt, like the credit cards and things like that my ex had run up. So I had paid off the consumer stuff, but I needed to get these equities. I needed my money. But you know what? I realized in that moment, her services were going to be more valuable than that money. And so it worked out. And I don't know if she ever recovered the funds, but I know I got a lot of deal out of that and we are still in business together today. All right. So, well, gee, man, I thought I was going to have a good teachable moment right there. Okay. So you know what? Okay. The friend who invested in the corporate, the homes, why was I the corporate homes? Why was I upset with my friend? Well, I wasn't upset with them after I saw them do it. What I was upset with them for is they were doing this thing that for most people doesn't work out. And what they were doing was telling people you need to do this. And for most people, that strategy doesn't work out. Okay. If you're not used to operating in executive circles, it's going to be really hard for you to market executive property and be taken seriously in the market. Okay. And you have to kind of have an eye and a taste for what people want. And you can develop that. I'm not saying nobody can develop that. But what I felt like was this person was saying, this is the way to do it. and other people were wanting to do it, and it was causing them to lose money. So that's why I had a little issues with that. But in the end analysis, it absolutely worked out for her. And that's why I added it into my teaching. Thank you so much for clarifying. Well, I guess I didn't catch that comment. Okay. I forgot there's a little bit of a lag. So each of these methods will work for the right situation and the right environment. Okay. Let me put that comment up as I go to the next slide. Okay. Yeah, and it's a really so for those of you who are listening on free conference call, the person who put that initial comment asked, why were you upset with your friend? I thought it was about the tax sale. I mean, the flipping thing, and they're saying it was actually about the new construction. So we explained that, but she's saying now it was a teachable moment. Your fellow investors mentoring service was more valuable than the refund of your investment. Yes, because that my fellow investor had a business that really has helped me over the years, and I'm not naming it because I didn't ask her. I normally name her business a lot, but I didn't ask her prior to today. So maybe in the future I will, so I can talk about that. But that's kind of a sticky situation. Otherwise I would name her. But yeah, there's a lot of things that go into real estate, and a lot of things can work for you. It's about finding what works for you, because you can do what everybody else does, but if it doesn't work for you, it's not going to work for you. And it's about finding what will work for you with your God-given strengths and abilities, as well as your time, talent, and treasure that you have. Okay. So everybody has a thing that works for them, and everybody has something that makes their heart sing. Not everybody likes everything. Some people like dealing with tenants and toilets. They like solving problems. They don't mind that at all. Other people like making spaces beautiful. As you can see behind me, I'm not one of those people that's worried about making spaces beautiful. I greatly cherish the people in my church who come in and help me make my church beautiful, because it's just me. It's going to be four walls and a podium. Okay. Everybody's got their strengths, and it's important for us to find our strengths and understand where we can make money with the greatest amount of positive energy and the least amount of negative energy. So the next topic that we're going to talk about today is really near and dear to my heart, because it's one of the first ways that I got started with real estate investing, other than buying my own house and trying to rent it out after I moved. Okay. Foreclosure and foreclosure consulting is a very powerful method, and I especially want people who are interested in learning about real estate to be on the lookout for our foreclosure consulting class that will be coming up soon. Okay. The reason that this works is because when a lender is not getting paid, they have the legal authority What that means is they can force the sale of the property in order to get their money back. That's what foreclose means. It means to force the sale. All right. There's 3 phases of foreclosure profit that you can intervene in and make a profit. The first phase of foreclosure is when somebody is not paying their bills. That's called the distressed seller. For some reason, they are not paying their bills. That is called pre-foreclosure. If that happens long enough that they don't pay their bills, and in each state and in each county and each parish, it is different. If it happens long enough that they don't pay their bills, the lender will force the sale, and it will go to an auction. At the auction, somebody else can buy that property. This is where cash is king, because you usually have to bring that money to the table later that day, right? And if nobody else makes a good offer, or if the offer is super low, sometimes the lender who forced the sale in the first place will then bid the amount that they owe so that they can get back the property. And then it becomes real estate owned. Now, if it's an individual that lent the money, then it's, you and I as an investor, that's one thing. But if it's a bank or an institution that owned the property, that's when you'll see it listed as real estate owned, REO. And in this case, you buy it from the lender after the foreclosure sale. Okay. Now, so let me go through those 3 things. Okay. I'm going to use a personal example. And if my family members are watching, I hope that this is not offensive, but I'm going to use a personal example. Okay. When my father died just over a year ago, he had a property. He was current on his mortgage, but his property needed a ton of repair. He had no will. My oldest brother could have gone to the county and become the executor of the estate, but he didn't want, he was so overcome with grief, and that's okay. Okay. Everybody processes grief in their own way. He was so overcome with grief. He didn't want to deal with all of that in the timeline that we needed to deal with it. Okay. So me and my sister ended up trying to take charge of his estate, but because we didn't live in PA, we couldn't do that without a lot of rigmarole. Right. So there was nothing we could do about dad's property. We could have gotten it fixed up. We could have gotten a renter in there if any of us had the money. But my siblings didn't have the money. My dad didn't leave us any money. I had all those car accidents in a row, and that depleted my savings. So I really didn't have the money to do it. And quite frankly, there wasn't a whole lot of money left in dad's house. If I'd have had my druthers, I would have fixed it up myself. Like if I was still living in Virginia, I would have fixed it up myself and I would have done all those things, but I just couldn't do that from a distance with the child while going through physical therapy, trying to recover from an accident and keep my job. Like it was just too much, right? So situation. It doesn't matter why the situation is, but situation has developed. Somebody is not paying their mortgage. Had we been able to get in contact with an investor who could come in and start paying that mortgage, that investor would have made the best possible deal on buying my father's house. But in our grief and with the condition of the property and the overwhelming amount of things that needed to be done in order to legally do anything with dad's property, we as the siblings were not able to do anything about dad's house. And it began to go into foreclosure, tax sale, all that stuff. Okay. And so you have a situation like that. Now it gets sold. I actually think, no, it went to tax sale. I think the bank paid the tax and then the bank foreclosed on it. Okay. And so I don't know where the status is right now. Honestly, I don't know. But that's how the progress works. Had somebody come to us at the beginning, and taken it over, they would have made a lot of profit off of dad's property. Had they bought it from the bank, or had they bought it on the auction steps, they could have made some money. And whoever buys it after the bank finally drops the price down and sells it, whatever it sells for, they will also make some money. Although it needed so much repair, I don't know that they will, but that's the process that it works. Okay. And I told that personal story because I thought it was going to be more easy to understand, but I feel like I've just confused everybody. Okay, let me get back to my slides. Okay. So with foreclosures and foreclosure consulting, one of the biggest problems with foreclosures and foreclosure consulting is that there's a lot of predatory behavior that goes, because the situations that cause people to not pay their mortgage usually is a big situation. You lost a parent, your family member had a stroke, you out of work, whatever, you fill in the blank. It's already an emotional and upsetting time in your life. And now you can't pay this bill, and somebody swoops in and says they can help you. And then they take your house out from under you. And the state said, you know what? We don't like this happening to our people. And so a lot of states have put out laws to help the consumer be protected from these kinds of predatory behaviors. Okay. So you really have to understand the rules in your state. And I am one of the people that functions as a foreclosure consultant. Now I'll just be honest with you. In states where I can buy the property after offering help with foreclosure, if the property is worth buying, I'm gonna buy it, right? But in some states, you cannot be the person that offers help with foreclosures and also buy the house. So in some states, if you offer help for foreclosures, or if your advertising says, I can help you stay in your home, or if your advertising says, I can help you avoid foreclosure, anything like that, you can't buy the property in those states. Okay. And so what then we become an intermediary. As the foreclosure consultant, I help the person if I can. If I can't, I connect them to my investor network. If you were on earlier, you will note that this sounds an awful lot like wholesaling. It is like wholesaling with the twist. It's the flavor twist of I'm wholesaling, but I'm finding these clients directly because they are trying to escape foreclosure. Now, you don't have to do that in states where you don't have to do that, but it's very important to understand the rules where you live. Dealing with foreclosures is an excellent way to help somebody on to move on with their life or to have a better life, while at the same time opening up an income stream for yourself. All right. As I mentioned over there, we do have a foreclosure consulting class now. Last year was the first year we added it. I added it because with everything going on with COVID, they are predicting a very high wave of foreclosures later in 2021. And I want people to be prepared to take advantage of it. So if that's something that you're interested in, be on the lookout for that. That's one of the classes we're going to add to our lineup for building for the DART method of real estate investing here in 2021. All right. Now we're going to talk about short sales. And this is one of those methods that I just knew was going to be my thing, y'all. I knew it was going to be my thing because I love a good deal. I love to get stuff on discount. You know what? Let me just talk to you for a second about this. One of the great things about having money is you can usually find ways to get better deals from people who don't have money. So like when you go to buy furniture and they want to put you on a payment plan, but that payment plan is actually going to be rigged and structured to get as much out of you as possible. And they never tell you how much you owe. And they promise you 24 months, no interest, but they don't tell you all the craziness that they do to make sure that you don't ever pay it on time, how they have in their processes. They're going to lose your bills and stuff. Like there's so many crazy things that happen with furniture, right? But if you walk into a furniture store and you want a $4,000 bedroom suite and you don't want to pay $4,000 for, you only want to pay $3,000, I guarantee you pull out $3,000 and you start to walk away, somebody's going to want to negotiate with you. Okay. And so I love a good deal. And what short sales are like getting a discount, negotiating a real good discount on the property with somebody who owns it. Okay. So let me take a quick sip of water here. The reason short sales work is because a lot of people, especially after the market crashed in 2007, 8, 9, and we're projecting that it's going to happen again soon in the next couple of years. A lot of people in these situations where the economy is wonky like it is, they own properties that have no equity or that are upside down. Some of you might remember my story about the $845,000 of debt. Okay, I came home from a trip. My marriage had fallen apart. I got stuck with all these properties. And one of them, we paid $405,000 for that property, and it was only worth $180,000. Okay, that's $225,000 upside down. All right. So for me, there was no way I was going to be able to sell that property. In fact, it was only last year that property became worth what I owe on it. So I've been paying it down all those years. I've been having renters in it all those years, and the property value has been going up, and it's finally met in the middle. It's still only worth about $300,000. Okay, maybe 325 or something like that. It's nowhere near the 405 that we paid for it in 2007. And so there's a lot of people who have properties that are in that situation. And when you're in that situation, you can't really sell a house unless you get the lender to agree to accept the amount the house is worth, or a little less if you're a savvy investor, accept the amount that the house is worth or less as payment in full for the bigger loan. Now, why would somebody do that, right? Like, why would I accept less money? Well, some money is better than no money. All right. Some money is better than no money. And some lenders will do it just to get some money going, just so they can get that bad debt off their books. Some they'll do it so they can avoid the cost of going through foreclosure. Because even though you expect that you'll get your legal fees back, you never know what's going to happen, right? So those are all these different reasons going to why somebody who who is the note holder for a house would be willing to take less than the note is worth. Okay. And the good news for you as an investor is this is an excellent strategy to get buy and hold properties. Now, I do not recommend this as a flip. Okay. This is not a flip strategy. It can be a flip strategy, but it takes so long to negotiate with short sales that I highly recommend that you look at this as a buy and hold strategy, and that you work with experienced investors who have done the short sale paperwork and can walk you through it. Short sales, see, I thought it was going to be great because it's about getting a sale. It's like negotiating a discount on the property. But what I didn't realize is it is a lot of meticulous paperwork and documentation, and it is being patient to submit that paperwork month after month after month after month, because the banks have an algorithm. The bank says, okay, this guy owed $100,000 on his house. It was only worth 80. He can't sell it. He's not paying his bills. We foreclosed. We took the property back. It's only worth 80, but he still owed 100,000 on it. The debt on our books is 100,000. We're trying to get our 100 back, but you know, actually, 80 is not a good example. Hold on. Because the banks have the insurance. You know, that's why you have to pay PMI and stuff like that, because, you know, so the banks get 20% for their insurance that they cover. So let's make the house worth 60. Okay. So we've got this property. He owes 100,000, but the market crashed hard. It's only worth 60. Okay. The bank cannot turn around. If they have 100,000 on the books for this debt, they can't turn around and sell it for 60 that month. Okay. So there's calculations. And again, I'm simplifying this for those of you who are in banking. You just bear with me. I'm simplifying this. Okay. The bank has a schedule, and in month 1, they got to go full price. Month 2, maybe they come down a little bit. Month 3, they come down a little bit, come down. And whatever that calculation and calculation is, there's certain things that are governed by law, and then there's certain things that are bank procedure. And so the short sale person is putting together the package. The short sale investor is submitting that package, and every month you're submitting that package until what the bank's willing to take for it and their policies and procedures will allow them to take for it matches what you as the investor is willing to pay for it. And whoever hits that sweet spot of the bank's price first gets the property. Okay. So now again, that is a little bit simplified, but that's kind of what's going on here. And so it's a meticulous process. And guess who really doesn't want to have to be meticulous like that every I know some of y'all think, as I'm a financial planner, that I'm just like, and a scientist in the Air Force, that I'm just like this Miss Spreadsheet nerd, that I have like all of the charts and everything. And yes, I do those things to help give me flexibility and freedom so that when I go on a trip, I can shop and buy whatever I want and I don't have to think about price. Okay. But in my heart of hearts, I really know I don't want to make life more complicated. And that's just, it was too much for me. I was so excited. This is the one area I was so excited about that did not work for me. One thing I'll caution you with short sales. Okay. If you are going to do this, make sure you have done your analysis so that when you get that property, you've made your money when you buy. And what I mean by that is the day you sign your name on that dotted line, you have gotten such a good deal that if you had to turn around and sell that house tomorrow, you could sell it tomorrow to another investment and still put money in your pocket. You make your money when you buy. All right. I'm going to check the comments here real quick before we move on. And I'm also going to remind everybody that our Real Estate Investing 101 class is our annual Global Youth Initiative fundraiser. We appreciate donations of any size. You can donate on PayPal through ministerwiggins@gmail. Use friends and family so I don't have to pay a fee. But if you just want to be safe and secure about it, you're not sure about the friends and family thing, you can send it to the Queen of Cash Flow. That's not the Queen of Cash Flow on Cash App or PayPal. PayPal will charge me a fee, but I'll take it. You know what? Because everything you do helps me help the kids. You can also go to bit.ly/lovehelping, all lowercase, and that will take you to our donation page where you can support our Global Youth Initiative as well as military single moms or anything else that I support. All right. All righty. Oh, next topic, landlording. This is one of my favorites, you know, and I, as much as I've learned about landlording, I find that I get better year after year after year. This is the tenants and toilets. Okay. And one thing I have learned about myself when it comes to landlording, I am actually way better. I'm actually way better a property manager for other people's properties than I am for my own. I really had to walk and learn. I really had to grow into being able to manage my properties without my big heart getting in the way when other people had their sob stories or their other reasons why they can't pay. There's some very, very real hurtful things that have happened in my life. And so when other people would come to me with a story about what happened in their life, I would tend to believe them because I think of if I told you all the crazy things that have happened in my life, you would think I'm making it up. Okay. And that's what a lot of people have thought before. I learned that people think you're making it up. So don't tell them everything. Right. But there's a lot of things that have happened. And so when you have that big heart, it's very easy to be taken advantage of. And when you're easily taken advantage of in some of those areas, then it's really easy to write this off altogether. But one of the things that I like to do when it comes to landlording is actually have a series of defined procedures and documents and everything lined up. So this, and this happens. And if you don't pay your rent, then this is the machination of what happens. These are the processes that you've activated by not paying your rent. It is all done in process. It's the same for every person and every time. And it helps let you keep your big heart where it belongs, which is doing good in your community, not mixing up your big heart with the business aspect of running property. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about landlording. Landlording, as many of us know, is where we rent property out to somebody else. Again, you really got to have a little bit of a thick skin to deal with tenants and toilets. But I also find that when you commit to the greater good and you think about the long-term strategic plan of what the Lord has for you, it's easier to have that thick skin, right? One thing about landlording that a lot of people haven't been talking about, but I believe is essential if you're trying to do real estate without getting into debt, is that niches can command higher rents. So if you rent to pet owners, especially unique breeds that other people won't allow. If you are in a college town and you rent to college kids, or you do assisted living or some kind of corporate executive, all these different niches usually can command higher rents. One that's actually kind of surprising is people groups. So like faith groups. And you do have to be careful about some of these depending on your jurisdiction and what's considered fair housing or not, which is based on how many properties you own. Okay. So you do have to be a little careful about some of these, but you would be surprised at how many affinity groups and niches you can establish for your properties to get higher rent. Now, this is one of the number one problems that I see with people who buy a property for landlording. They haven't done their research to make their money when they buy. They buy it at market cost, thinking it'll appreciate one day, and don't realize all of the maintenance that goes into buying a property. In fact, that's not just investors, y'all. That's everybody. As a financial planner, you would be amazed. I'm always amazed. You probably wouldn't be amazed, but I am always amazed at how many people come to me talking about we're going to buy a house so we don't put money in somebody else's pocket and we're going to build something for ourselves. And they haven't stopped to consider that when you buy a house, you are responsible for your roof. When you buy a house, you're responsible for cutting your grass. You rent Kingstown Apartments in Bossier. It's like $1,200 a month, right? And you think, oh, well, I'm going to go buy a house. It's going to be a lot cheaper. Well, it might be the same price to buy your 3-bedroom house in Bossier, but you got to pay trash and water. Those are separate. You got to pay gas and electricity. Those are separate. You got to pay insurance because we have a hailstorm or a tornado every year, right? Like all these things add up. Okay. And so we want to be able to be realistic about what's going on. Too many people get into something without really understanding their costs, and then it's a headache and a drain on them. And somebody watching this, I don't know who it is, but somebody watching this, you're not happy with renting right now, and you're about to make a big mistake. And I don't know who you are. I don't know if you're watching it live or if you're going to watch it later, but somebody's about to make a big mistake, because I'm feeling led to tell you that sometimes renting is the best thing to do. Sometimes renting is the best thing to do. You don't have to worry about the maintenance. You don't have to worry about all the things that are going to go wrong. If the market goes up or down, your rent might increase a little bit, but you don't have to bear the cost of that. Of that property when things go wrong. And you think I'm going to go get into a property and it's going to make my life so much better, and I'm going to build all this equity, and I'm going to have all of this goodness to my name later. But all that property is going to do for you is be a headache. It's going to take you extra time to maintain, and you already don't have enough time with your family. It's going to take you extra money to keep it the way you want, and you are already strapped for cash. So whoever I'm talking to, I hope you will text me and let me know that I'm talking to you and that this is the Lord speaking into your life. But somebody about to make a big mistake, and I want you to reconsider. I want you to pray about it and ask the Lord to show you whether or not to do that thing. Okay. So when it comes to landlording, we have to be careful not to just buy something thinking, oh, well, it'll appreciate. Real estate always appreciates. I told y'all I had that house that we paid $405,000 for in 2007. 2 years later, in 2009, I think this is important. Let me put it right back on me. We had that house we paid $405,000 for in 2007. In 2009, it was only worth $180 because the market had crashed. In 2020, that property had only come up to about $300,000 worth in value. Real estate does not always appreciate. Now, nobody could have predicted that low of a drop. Okay. Most properties around there have recovered far before that one did, right? But one thing we know about the world, markets go up, markets go down, markets go up, markets go down, markets go up, markets go down. Okay. So we have to make our money when we buy. The minute we sign that dotted line, we've got such a good value that if we have to sell it in a hurry, we can sell it to another investor. If we're renting it out or we're flipping it or whatever we're doing, we know that we can make money. If I'm renting it out, I know I own that property and it's in a good enough area where I can make the money back on my investment quickly. We make our money when we buy. All right. And so we have to balance effort with profit on this. We have to make sure that what we're doing is not a drain on our family and energy, because it really doesn't make any sense to go through all this effort and then you can't even have the health and strength to enjoy it. All right. But on the other hand, if you hire the pros for everything, you're going to eat away your profit real quick. And don't even just tell me, oh, I'm going to go get a property manager and it's just going to be a passive investment. When people tell me that tells me you have not worked with a property manager before, because you still have to manage the manager. Okay. Now, if you are interested in landlording, I highly recommend you go out to mrlandlord.com or biggerpockets.com. I like Mr. Landlord better, because I feel like it's more real, but those are the ones that you definitely want to take a look at. Okay. And so we've got a question here. Tanya asks, what is the safest real estate investment to make during the pandemic? This is a great question, because right now, the market signs, even before the pandemic, were already indicating a crash was coming. Okay. People who follow the market signs were already saying before COVID hit that the market was showing the signs that it was going for a crash soon. So what are some of those signs? Well, one of those signs is increased prices and shorter time on market. So what we were noticing, and we're starting to notice again, is that prices of properties are going up, 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 and the time that they're on the market is starting to go shorter and shorter. Okay. So that's one indicator. Another indicator is the rise in new construction. All right. And there's a rise. But when you see stuff start to sharply rise, that's an indicator. So before we went into COVID, we already had indicators that a crash was coming. Now, because of COVID, there is a temporary and I think artificial bump in prices and decrease in sales time, because people are stressing out. They haven't been able to move and make the things that they need to do and do the things they need to do. And so what's happened is people are buying faster, almost as an overreaction. But what I think, and what a lot of other financial planners and real estate investors think, and people are all over the map on this. Okay, you can get an expert to tell you whatever you want, but what I personally think the safest thing for people to start doing right now is to reduce their debts or save up cash. Okay. And if I was going to buy a property today, the only property that I would buy is either something that I could buy in cash that I know I could rent right out today and make good money, a good return on investment, however you individually define good, okay? And that I have enough return on my investment to make it worth my while. And personally, I'm not buying property right now because I think a crash is coming. It may not come. but I think a crash is coming. And what I would recommend, and this is, again, you can find an expert to tell you anything that you want, but I would recommend moving my investments, and this is what I'm doing with mine. I would recommend moving to a cash position so that when things do hit rock bottom, and we never know rock bottom till it starts climbing back, but once things start to become, later in this year, if things really do start, a lot of foreclosures, a lot of issues, that you can come in and swoop those properties up and help the owners restore their lives and profit yourself. Okay. So if I was really feeling the bug right now, and I had money in my IRA to invest right now, I might go with some of the tax liens or tax sales. Okay. I would do something that's safer. And I would also do things like wholesaling. I wouldn't necessarily buy property right now, because I think a crash is coming, or at least a depression, not depression. I don't want to say that. A lowering of real estate prices, I think, is coming. I don't know if it'll be a crisis, but it'll definitely be something. Okay. Great question. Great question. All right. Our next investment strategy is one that I coined called leapfrogging. And, I was working on the book for this. I've drafted it and I've taught it for years, and we were working on the book for this, but I decided to make it part of a larger strategy, which is our DART method. What leapfrogging is a great way for somebody who can move around a lot. Okay. Not everybody can move around a lot. When you've got kids, there's only so many places that you can move, because your kids want to be settled, and you want them in a good school, and you don't want to have to uproot them every 2 years. Right. But if you have the flexibility to move around, even if it's in your neighborhood, leapfrogging can be a wonderful, wonderful way for you to build wealth in a hurry. I've watched a lot of women, a lot of mature women who use this strategy and are financially independent in as little as 8 to 10 years. Okay. So what you do with leapfrogging is you buy a serious fixer-upper at a discount, ideally from a personal relationship, and then you rent. I put rent in it. That should be live. Oops. You live in it for 2 years, and while you're living in it, you are fixing it up and you're paying it down. Okay. So again, this is why I'm saying this really applies more to people who don't have kids, that can afford to kind of bounce around and maybe live in an area that you might not necessarily live in if you had children. Okay. I'm not saying you can't do it with children. I'm just saying, as a mom, my desire for this tactic stopped when I had kids. Okay. Let's say it that way. So what you do is you get a property at a super discount, but it's still livable, so, maybe the roof needs to be worked on, but you can get that worked on. And maybe some of the rooms are ridiculous, but you've got one good room and you can still use the kitchen while you're fixing the rest of it up, and with COVID, I understand that some of these things are, not applicable right now in this moment, but overall, Home Depot, Lowe's, a lot of these places have classes that teach you how to lay tile, how to do this, how to do that. And if you connect with other investors and other trades at real estate investor groups, you can find a lot of really good deals on getting things done. So you're in there for 2 or 3 years, you fix it up real nice. Okay. And while you're in there, you pay it down. Now, I will acknowledge that most people who do this keep a mortgage on that property, and they bounce from one to one to one, and they have a daisy train of mortgages behind them. I don't recommend you do that. I recommend you find something that's cheap enough that you can add value to it to pay it off. But that you're living a real focused lifestyle. Okay. I don't want anybody to feel deprived, but you're really doing a real focused lifestyle where in 2 to 3 years, you can pay that thing off and you go again. Now you're still getting a loan to get into it, and that's why a lot of investors started this in the first place. That's what I noticed these ladies were doing, because when you get a loan that you're in a property you live in, you actually get a cheaper loan. Now, back in the day, I was all about the cheaper loan. Today, I'm all about no loan. Okay. But I don't mind a loan if it's a property you're living in, but I want you to not have a loan left over by the time you're done fixing it up and moving on. But by the time you fix it up, now you've got a nice property, a nice little house, a nice little cozy house that you can rent out. And you just keep doing that over and over and over until you build your portfolio. Okay. Again, this is an excellent strategy for the right people who can who have the lifestyle and ability to do that. Okay. If you are interested in this, one book that I would recommend that you look into, and of course, I'm still unpacking my office, so I don't see it right here, but there's a great book by a gentleman named John Schwab that's called Building Wealth One House at a Time. Okay. And that book kind of walks you through the process, not necessarily with a house that you live in, but investing in general. And his thing is, hey, you only really need to acquire one property a year to be financially independent in 10 years. Okay. And so now he doesn't teach debt free like I do, but the principles that he teaches are still good. All right. All right. So that's leapfrogging. All right. Creative financing. Before I move on, I'm going to take a quick swig. We are at about an hour of this lesson, and our real estate investing usually does go a little long. Okay. But if people have to drop off, I understand. We're going to talk about creative financing. I'm going to give you some time. If you've got any questions on what we've covered thus far and you want to drop them in the chat, go ahead and do that while I'm getting me a little drink here. If you haven't noticed, I can talk about real estate all day. And I thought I had gotten this class down to about an hour 15. And then we had all those technical difficulties. So we are at about an hour of actual teaching today. We'll see how much further we get. All right. We're going to cover all the topics. I guess what I really mean is I'm going to cover all the topics. It's whether or not you're going to be able to hang. But we've got creative financing. We've got lease options, which is a creative financing thing. We've got land contracts to talk about, subject to one of my favorite things, commercial apartments, and then land. And then I think private lending as well. Yeah. Private lending and note buying. We're going to talk about this. I don't like debt, but those are things that are important for you to know. And there are ways to invest in those without going into more debt. All right. And those are the topics that we have coming up. So if you want to stick along, you can. All right. But if you have to get going, I totally understand. And this particular class, the one-on-one class, will stay up in the Facebook group. Okay. So it'll stay up in the Facebook group. I'm also streaming this to YouTube. It'll stay there. This class is out there permanently. The rest of the classes, if you're interested in digging more detail, go to buildingwealthtogether.com, look for JJ Conway's DART method of real estate investing. And when you click on that, it'll give you access to the membership that you can buy, that you get all of these other classes. Okay. If you just want to learn, but you're not ready to make that level of an investment, I'm going to recommend that you invest your time. I'm going to recommend that you invest your time by going to the DART method of real estate investing Facebook group. Join the Facebook group and you'll see these lessons. Well, this one will be there forever, but you'll see the other lessons for about 24 hours. They'll be removed, put in the DART method portal, and then you at least get it. Okay. You won't have it to watch over and over, but you'll at least get something, and something is better than nothing. Okay. But personally, if you're really serious about it, then I think you should take that kind of action to move your life forward. Okay. And that's really what it's about. We're taking small steps in the direction of our dreams. And one thing many of us need as we take small steps in the direction of our dreams is creative financing. Creative financing is something I love to teach my clients once they've gotten through getting out of debt. And there are so many different creative financing strategies out there, y'all. We're going to talk about a couple of them today, but I've listed a few up here: lease options, rent to owns, owner financing. My new favorite way to buy properties right now is subject to, and we're going to talk about that more. I've got a slide on that later. The reason these strategies are important for my clients is because I teach people to invest without taking on more debt. And if you're going to invest without taking on more debt, then you have to learn how to acquire a property without going through the bank. Okay. So the reason this works is because some sellers care more about price. Other sellers care more about terms. And so if you can figure out what's important to the seller, if price is important to the seller, then you can work around their price to get terms that are good to you. If terms are important to the seller, you can work around the terms to get a price that's good to you. Okay. Almost any way you could think of to structure a deal, you can make it work as long as it's legal, moral, and ethical. Okay. Now, I will recommend that, you do spend a little bit of time and money to build relationships with a title company and real estate attorney, because their services are worth the money you spend to keep you out of trouble, right? But I also think it's important to note that creative financing strategies have endless possibilities. There's so many different ways that you can make it work for you. Okay. It's just about coming up with what works for you and asking. The worst thing they can say is no. So let's talk a little bit about some of these strategies. We're going to start off talking about lease options. Lease options is a wonderful creative financing strategy because you don't actually own the property when you execute a lease option deal. Now, you could be the investor who owns the property, but for the prospect of this class, what we're talking about in this first example is an investor who pays the property owner an option fee to lock in a future price. So you've got a house on the market for $100,000. I want to buy your house, but I don't have $100,000, and I'm not going to go to the bank to get $100,000. But I'm going to give you I'm going to give you $1,000 for the right to buy your house for $100,000 next year. And you say to yourself, the property owner says to themselves, well, I really want my 100,000. I've been getting no nibbles. Nobody been looking at this property. I'm going to just go ahead and let JJ pay $1,000 cash in my pocket so she can have my property in a year at 100,000. And then I would come up with an agreement for what I'm going to rent it to. All right. So I get the property. I don't own the property. Okay. I don't own the property. I'm renting the property, but I get the right to buy it for a year at $100,000. So then what I do, I turn around and I rent it to somebody else. Now watch how this works. Okay. And again, we have a whole class on this where I actually go into big detail on it. All right. What we do is, there's the house. All right. I should probably just add that slide in here. Got a house. Okay. I'm on this side of the house. I pay the owner $500 a month for the house. I paid the owner $1,000 for the right to buy the house later at $100,000. Okay. So this is me in the house. All right. I go and I get somebody else to rent this house, and I charge them $750 a month to rent this house. And I tell them, hey, if you want to build up your credit and then buy this house next year, I'll work with you. You can buy this house for the low price of $110,000 a year from now. You'll rent it for $750 now. And if you want the right to buy it when I sell it a year from now, we can lock in your price right now for $110,000. You just got to pay me a $2,000 non-refundable option fee for the right to lock that in, because if the market goes up, then I'm going to sell it for whatever the market is, but I'm going to give you this deal. Now, y'all see what I did here? We got a house. We got two people operating on either side of the house, and the owner's making money because they got my $1,000 and they're pocketing my $500 a month, right? I'm making money because the new person, the renter, the rent-to-owner, the lease option person, they paid me $2,000. So I made a spread, right? Like I already profited. I made a spread of $1,000 already right off the bat. Now they're paying $750 a month to rent the house. So I'm paying the owner $500. They're paying me, the renter's paying me $750. I'm pocketing $250 a month, right? And because they're buying the house, right? The people who are renting it are buying the house. Now what their expectation is, and my expectation of them, and what I promised the owner is, I promised the owner, hey, if you let me have the right to buy your house, I'll take the maintenance, I'll take the headaches off your shoulders. And what the renter is, hey, you're going to buy the house in the future. You're going to pay me $110 for it. You're going to pay $750 a month now. I'm going to help you rebuild your credit. And because you're buying the house, you're going to take care of all the maintenance. I'm not doing any maintenance. I am just collecting a spread. I made the original homeowner's headache go away by giving them a cash infusion and some money in their pocket every month. I have given this other homeowner hope that they can achieve their dream of home ownership one day. And I am pocketing the spread because I learned how to structure this deal that's a win-win for more than just one person. And at the end of closing day, when I go to execute my option to buy the house from the owner, and when the renter goes to execute their option to buy the house from me, I'm paying him $100,000. She's paying me $110,000. I pocket another $10,000. You see how you can use this technique to make money in real estate without having to go into more debt? Every month, that can be money that's going on your table, or giving you some breathing room in your life, or allowing you to give your kids something more that you haven't been able to do. Every month, that money can be in there. And at the end of the year, that spread in the sales price, that can be your next vacation. That can be paying off a card. That can be buying you a smaller new car, right? There's a very, very powerful technique, and we're going to get into more detail about how you find these deals and how you actually make the connections to find the people who are going to be the right people that really need that leg up, as well as find the owners that are so distressed that they are willing to work with you in terms that will allow it. Because any owner really could find the person to pay $750 a month. But what happens is a lot of owners, they stick to their guns in the beginning. And by time you come across them, they are so beat down and worn out by not finding anybody for that house, not being able to sell it, that they're just so exasperated and their emotions are getting in the way. And you can come in and give some clarity to that situation and put money in their pocket. It is a win-win-win. It is truly a win-win-win. So I love this strategy. Okay. Now, I will say with this strategy that the laws in each state are very important. This is why it's so important to connect with other investors who can help you steer clear of the laws. So like in Texas, if you do a lease option within 6 months, you've got to actually put the deed into their name. And there's different ways that people work around that. But most of the investors that I'm talking with in Texas right now, rather than using this strategy of lease option, they're actually doing what we would call owner finance. Okay. So let me switch that slide. There we go. Okay. What a lot of the investors I'm seeing right now are doing owner financing. And so that's a different strategy that you can work with. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about owner financing. Let me just check the comments real quick. I guess I should ask if anybody on free conference call has a comment. If you do, I have no way of knowing because I put you guys in silent mode. All right. Well, we'll check. Well, if free conference callers, send an email to ministerwiggins@gmail.com and put real estate in the title, and I'll check it when we get to the end. Okay. All right. So, but land contract, very, very powerful strategy. Land contract is basically owner financing. Okay. So you're buying a house from somebody, but instead of paying the bank, you're paying the owner. All right. That's all that really is. So in this case, what you're doing is you're getting a private mortgage from whoever originally owns the house. This can be a very effective way to buy investments. I'm not as big of a fan of this method because it is still adding more debt to your bottom line. And remember, our DART method is debt avoidance, restructuring, or transfer. Okay. So we're not trying to add more debt to our name. We're trying to reduce our debt as well as reduce the debt of the buyer. So you really have to be careful with this method. All right. And if you are going to now sell a property with a land contract, I love that. I absolutely love that. Okay. I do recommend that you work with a title company and a loan originator to make sure that you keep yourself compliant, especially in states that are highly regulated. All right, now we're going to talk about my favorite way to invest in real estate right now. This is called subject to. And believe it or not, this is where people are basically giving you a property subject to the existing loan. You have a property you can't sell anymore. I mean, you have a property you can't maintain anymore. It's been a thorn in your flesh and it's been a problem from day one. Whatever the story is, you would just like somebody to take this thing off. You don't care if you don't get your equity out. You just want the headache gone, and you let the investor take over the loan. Okay. And so, with this property, you might remember, some of you might have heard me tell the story about my dad's house. Had I had the mental, I mean, the loss of my father really affected me. I don't think I did business for like 2 months, guys. And so had I had a little bit more presence of mind and had things not progressed so rapidly with the deterioration of the property, had an investor come in, I think all of my siblings would have been willing to just let somebody come in and start making the payments. Just start making the payments, and you make the payments, you rent out the house, you fix up the house, and we'll figure it out. We'll figure out how to work the ownership later, like that. I would have been willing to do that. I really would have been, because I hated, my dad worked so hard for his house, and I really hated to see it fall into disrepair. But it needed roof repairs, and I think like maybe a month after we laid him to rest, there was a huge storm that came through, and it was just too much for us, right? But somebody could have come in the beginning and put a new roof on it and done all these things as an investor. They could have then turned around and rented it out, and all they would have had to do was pay the mortgage. And the way that my dad's mortgage was structured, he was paying below market rents, so that would have been a win-win for whoever came in. Okay. And so the last church that we were getting ready to buy, some of you guys remember me posting the pictures of that red church. Life took another transition. So instead of retiring in Shreveport, I have moved to Texas. But originally the intent was to stay in Shreveport. That was my original intent, was to stay in Shreveport. And so we were in the process of negotiating this church, 5,000 square foot commercial property. All we had to do was take over the loan. They'd already been paying on it for 14 years. We would have had that loan knocked out in another 6 years, and it would have been owned free and clear. Would have been an excellent deal. Why would somebody do that? Why on earth would somebody want to let you take over their loan? I mean, that just does not make any earthly sense, does it? Well, actually, it does. And the reason it does is because people have situations where they have to get out of a property in a hurry. Okay. And in the situation of the folks that owned that church, they were older. They lived an hour away. It was on a 2-acre property. They were tired of driving up there to maintain it. And it really was. We were working on it for a couple months. It needed a lot of work. We left the property better than it was, but it needed a lot of work. Okay. And so it would have been a great deal for us. It would have been a great deal for them. They would have had the headache off of them, and we would have had a 5,000 square foot church with the fellowship hall that on 2 acres that we could have done something with. It would have been an excellent deal. And hopefully another investor is getting that excellent deal, but you never know. The Lord might still have that for me. I don't know. But it's somebody needs to get out of a property in a hurry, and they just need the headache to go away. And I've learned not to question somebody's why. I just look at it as, how do I help you and help myself at the same time? And with the case of a house, you're also helping a third person, because I'm getting the property from this seller. I'm taking over their payments. Now I'm putting somebody else in that property. And what I do with it is I personally like to do a lease option. So this is where, the debt restructuring and transfer comes into play. I'm not reducing debt. Okay. It's not a 100% debt-free deal, but it's debt-free to me. It's somebody else's debt that already existed. I'm taking that headache off of their shoulders. We're getting somebody in the property to pay for that. I'm not taking on more debt to my name, and that renter that I'm getting in the property is taking care of the debt and knocking it down for the other people who really need their credit to improve, really need their payments to be made, really need that headache to be gone. It's a win-win-win. Now you're putting somebody into a house who never thought that they could buy a house. And a lot of these deals that you get with subject to, you can put people in there at a price point that they wouldn't have been able to afford to buy a house at. It's a wonderful, wonderful strategy. And I hope that you will join me in learning more about it in the future. Okay. If you're in Texas or Louisiana, Roger Ketchum, who teaches classes, those two groups there are in Louisiana. He is good at that. I need to add Tim Cook on here. I think I had him on another slide. He is excellent with subject to here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And I say here, I'm about an hour and a half from Dallas right now, but I mean, it's still kind of the same. That's where all the real estate is happening. I go on the Erath County thing to look at the foreclosures, and there's like one this month, and zero next month, right? So this is not a happening place for that kind of thing right now. But you want to connect with people who are local to you, who are actually doing the thing, and they'll be able to walk you through it. It's a phenomenally powerful technique. Okay. Again, for those of you who are just joining us, this is our global fundraiser for Global Youth Initiative, our annual fundraiser. We do Global Youth Initiative every April and October. We do leadership and values training for young adults. We teach people, we encourage our young people to be confident kids and become global leaders. We appreciate donations of any size, which you can PayPal to ministerwiggins@gmail.com, or you can go to bit.ly, so bit.ly/love helping, and you can donate to any of my charities there. Okay. Now we're going to give an overview of commercial. Oh, I didn't put the slide up. I bet I had my funny reading the slide face on the live, and y'all were looking like, why is she making that face? Because I was reading the slide. Let me put the slide back. Oh boy, I can't wait. No, I'm not even going to do it. I was about to say I can't wait to watch this and see what kind of silly faces was I making while I read the slide, because I'm a trained voice actor, okay? But sometimes when I read stuff, my face makes all these things to help me get the voice inflection that I want. So if I made funny faces, please forgive me, okay? I thought y'all were looking at the slide, not at me. Whoops. Okay. This is our benefit for Global Youth Initiative. You can PayPal Queen of Cash Flow, Cash App Queen of Cash Flow, or you can PayPal Friends and Family Minister Wiggins@gmail.com. I hope you will support me as I support our youth. That one's Northwest Louisiana. I need to change my slide. Okay, so I am still doing Global Youth Initiative of Northwest Louisiana. We are also standing up Global Youth Initiative of Erath County. Okay, so you're going to see me advertising for both. We're going to do events in both locations. I have very good relationships. We've already got our locations planned out for April and October. Depending on COVID, I already know where I want to take the kids. Fantastic relationships that we have in Northwest Louisiana, and we want to continue to grow youth in those areas. But we are also going to establish Global Youth Initiative of Erath County. So I'm gonna need double your money, y'all. I'm telling you, and especially out here, because you have to drive an hour and a half to get to Dallas. So to take the kid anywhere to do something really, really, really cool takes some time, and I need money to do that. Kids don't just, especially teenagers just don't hop in the car and be like, "Ooh, I want to do John Maxwell today." No, you got to entice them. And then once they get into it, then they're like, "Oh, this is pretty cool." But you got to get them into it, right? So I need y'all to help me help these young people. And if you've got some teenagers, especially our young men, I want you to be encouraged to be on the lookout for our next Global Youth Initiative activities. All right. Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about commercial. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an overview of commercial, and then we're going to talk really briefly about a subset of commercial. We're going to talk about apartments, okay? We're going to talk a little bit about land, and then we're going to roll into other topics. But just to kind of give an overview of commercial is basically any kind of real estate that is not residential. So if it's not a house that some family is living in, then that's considered commercial. You got retail buildings, office buildings, warehouses, storage, industrial buildings, apartments, and then you've got some mixed use facilities where you might have people living in the top, but there's a storefront on the bottom. All right. Commercial properties have a higher income potential over residential, and there's a greater incentive in those properties for the tenants to protect it because it's a reflection of their brand. So when I have a retail strip mall, whoever's renting it for their store, they generally take good care of it because they want their business to thrive. Okay, I say generally because none of these things are 100% time always true, right? But for the most part, when you have commercial property, you're going to have better business hours. You're going to have tenants that take care better of your property, and legally, you can pass a lot more on to your tenants. In fact, when I've renegotiated commercial leases, I always have to ask about the different. Are you charging me? Are you charging me to to help maintain your parking lot and the lights and all that stuff? And we get into more detail about that in the commercial class. I'm not going to go into all those terms right now, but I will say that, with a commercial lease, you pass on the real estate taxes. You can pass on the commercial upkeep of, like I said earlier, the parking lots and things. You pass on all the maintenance. So when I was in the mall, the first 3 years we were in the mall, we were responsible for all of our maintenance costs, including the air conditioning. Well, we had 3 tornadoes. And so the last year I was like, I'm moving. And they're like, well, you can't move. I'm like, I gotta move. We got 3 tornadoes. I've been replacing a commercial air conditioning unit every year for the last 3 years. And my church cannot keep doing this. We're not getting anywhere. We're putting all our money into the air conditioning. And so then they included, the last year they revised the lease to include maintenance. Right. And so that was a blessing, except when they didn't want to pay it. So as a commercial, if you're investing in commercial, you have a lot more latitude in the money you can make and a lot more flexibility to pass a lot of the costs on to your tenants. It's a very, very profitable endeavor. However, it is not for the faint of heart because it is a very expensive endeavor. And not only is there a higher initial cost, but because you're going into this, you do have some higher tenant expectations, okay? As far as what you're providing them, depending on the structure of what you have. There's all kinds of different things that you can do with commercial properties. You can sell them a vanilla box with just plain walls. You can sell them something that's stripped down to the studs. I mean, you can not sell a rent. You can do anything like that as long as there's an agreement there. There's no residential protections in commercial like you have with a house. Like I can't put a renter in a house that doesn't have walls, right? Like I can't do that. In fact, in some jurisdictions, you can't put a renter in a house if you don't have at least a fridge or a stove. Okay. So there's all kinds of consumer protections when it comes to residential, but there's nothing when it comes to commercial. Let the buyer beware. All right. And the other thing that I want to caution people about with commercial is when you have a commercial property, you can't just have your brother, your cousin, your cousin Tommy come in and just kind of work on things and tinker around and fix things up. You have to have professionals do things. Now, do people have their cousin Tommy come in and fix stuff up? Sure they do. But some of us, let me just look at the camera here. Some of us, it's not working because somebody's going to get mad at me for saying this. Some of us are in situations where we need to make sure we do everything by the book so that when we have commercial properties, that we don't get our properties taken away from us. Because some of us have a situation where people are always looking for any reason to take our property away from us because many people feel that we should not have property. Some of us. All right. And I know the last time I was in a commercial property, I had a lot of opposition and I had to make sure that I had my ducks in a row. So yes, my cousin Tommy or my cousin Frankie could have come over and fixed this or fixed that if they lived nearby there in PA. But if they were here, they could have fixed this and fixed that. But I wasn't going to mess around because I need to make sure that I keep mine to the end of the day. A word to the wise. All right. So you want to make sure you do things to code. You want to make sure you do things right. And code is different. When you're building a wall in a commercial facility, you need thicker drywall. You need thicker sheetrock. You need different levels of paint. You need the fire extinguishers and you need the fire exits, and things have to be lit the right way. And you have to have the connections, and you have to have so many bathrooms for so many people. And you have to have for so many other people, you have to, if you have assembly, like is what I do, training center, you got to have a water fountain. You got to have this and all these different things. You got to get educated on the commercial property that you want to use for your business, but you also need to get educated on what the people who are renting your property want to do. Okay. So I look at commercial property from 2 perspectives. Okay. I have been negotiating rent for churches for commercial property since 1999. Okay. And so when it comes to commercial, I have seen a lot of leases. I've helped a lot of people get into buildings. And now as a property owner, I look at it as I need to make sure that my tenants are doing what they should be doing. And I need to know the rules and the laws and make sure, because whatever the tenants do can ultimately come back to bite me. I just told you that some of us have a bit of a harder row to hoe when it comes to maintaining our property. And you got to make sure things are done right. You got a property that's zoned for mercantile, and you got a church trying to put themselves in your property, and that one little unit, they got 100 people crammed in there. Guess who that can come back on? So you got to understand what's going on, and it's important to spend the money to do that. I like this. I like that Chevy puts this out here. Nothing is for the faint of heart. It takes grit to be an entrepreneur. It takes grit to be an entrepreneur. It takes a lot of grit to be a real estate investor. If you're in Northwest Louisiana and you want to learn about wholesaling, this man right here will teach you about wholesaling. All right. Hey, I still have your lock, by the way. We need to get that back to you. I still have your lockbox. I found it like a week ago. I was like, oh, I need to reach out to him. Yeah. It's not for the faint of heart, but it can be so profitable. Okay. It can be absolutely so profitable. And again, it's a win-win. It's a win-win. You are enhancing your bottom line, and you are providing an opportunity for other business owners to come in and rent your property, or you're providing an opportunity for people to have a safe place to live if you're running an apartment, or you are providing an opportunity with industrial space or storage or land or whatever it is you do. There are opportunities there for win-win-win. This isn't all just about being greedy and putting a lot of money in your pockets. Now, don't get me wrong. I want you to put a lot of money in your pockets. But many of the people who follow me, you got a calling from God. You have a gifting from God. You have something you want to do on this earth. And we don't want to have our business practices conflict with our personal moral compass. All right. And what I'm trying to tell you today is you can have both. You can have your integrity and money in your pocket while doing good for the community. Man, I love working with entrepreneurs who want to make money making a difference. All right. Now, since I mentioned apartments, I'm going to touch on that real quick. Apartments is a subset of commercial. Okay. We're all pretty much familiar with what apartments are. They're multifamily units. The reason apartments are appealing to investors is because you kind of maximize your profit in one building and you can reduce your risk. I say can because, like I said about Louisiana, when I was living there, we had a tornado every year. And people are like, oh, we never have this many storms. I'm like, you had one every year, the 4 years I was there. So a lot of things are relative, but for the most part, if you've got 100 properties scattered all about town, but you got an apartment building with 100 units, it might be a lot easier for you to maintain it. Now I'm gonna go where the money is, right? But there's a lot of economy of time that you can realize just by having all your stuff in one area. And also, you've got 100 houses spread around town. It's easy. It's harder to keep those repaired than it is if all of them are in one spot. And the management costs are a little bit better because you can have a management on site or things like that, but it's all centralized and it's all streamlined. Now, with management of commercial property, even apartments, residential, whatever you have, there are techniques you can use to streamline all of that. And we dig into that throughout the course of the year. Like I literally give you my documentation that I use in managing my property. Okay. Apartments are enjoying high profits right now. I expect them to remain solid, even with all the COVID, everything stuff going on. I do expect profits. I do expect apartments to continue being solid for another year or so. I don't think they'll ever not be a good investment, but like right now, they're a pretty strong investment. Okay. The thing about apartments and any kind of rental in general is property management can really make or break you. The right property management is the difference between really making good money on your investment and tanking it quickly. Okay. Because you have all kinds of property managers. I had one property manager one time, he went into collusion with my tenants and they stopped paying rent. Well, they gave his sister a job. She moved. I don't know if she had a divorce or whatever it was, but she moved in with him. She needed a job. They gave him a job. And so they gave the sister a job and they stopped paying rent and he didn't go after them, and I lost a lot of money on that because by the time I figured out what was going on, it was just a big old mess, right? So property management can make or break you. Like I said in the landlording section, property management, you have to manage the manager. Okay. That's how I learned that. I heard it. I heard other investors. Wait. Yeah, I heard other investors say that. I heard them say that. I sat in the class, I sat in the masterminds, and they always would say, well, you got to manage the manager, and nothing's ever passive. I heard that with my ears, but let me tell y'all, that has now been indelibly written upon my heart. All right. The best thing when it comes to apartments or anything like that is when the property is suitable for you to use. And some of you have heard this story before. I'm going to tell it real quick. I was so excited when this one gentleman came back into my life. We had dated for, off and on for a couple months, but he didn't want to get married. And even though I didn't really want to get married again anytime soon, I wasn't going to date you for 8 years and not get married, right? So I was like, okay, I can see that you don't want to get married. You know that ultimately that's my goal, even though I'm just good with having fun right now and just getting to know each other and travel and stuff. But I can't be with somebody who long-term doesn't see marriage in the future, isn't hoping that that'll happen. And so we broke off. We saw other people. We did other things. And then he comes back to me. Christmas gift. Gives me this beautiful all-day spa day at Destiny Spa, right? And they're not cheap, y'all. They are a pretty penny. And it was one of the best days I've ever had in my whole life. And we started talking on the phone every night. We started having a good old time. Y'all, this man was buying an apartment complex and he wanted me to talk him through it. Oh my goodness. Well, I'll tell you what, I got a lot of nice gifts out of that mentorship. So the best part about buying apartments or anything like that is when you can find a property that's suitable for you to use. And in his case, what he wanted to do is was a 24 unit across from his school where he went to college at, and he used to always host these big tailgates there. So he would host the tailgates. He spent a significant amount of money every year in the hotel that was by his college. So he bought these apartments. He converted 2 of them to his own private suite. And now the tenants are basically paying for his football trips. All right. So, I mean, that's a win. That's a huge win right there. Okay. I won't say win, but I did get a lot of nice stuff out of that. And, I guess he got a value and the tenants got a value. So I guess it really was a win-win-win when you stop and think about it. Okay. Now, people don't realize this, but you can actually find deals on apartments by driving for dollars. For those of you who are listening via free conference call, what you're not seeing right now is I have a slide that shows a swanky new modern apartment. Okay. One of these big, expensive new construction apartments, right? And then on the other side of the slide, I've got a couple of older, smaller, like one is a little fourplex. The other one is I think that's like a 20, it's 2 buildings. And I think there's like 20 between the two. Now, I actually used to live in that one in the back there. Okay. And the owner just a year or 2 ago, I think she built another set behind there. But, we think that you have to go big or go home when it comes to these things, but you can actually find really great deals driving for dollars and identifying these smaller, older properties where the owner has had them for a significant amount of time and they're ready to move on. And so when you have a smaller property like this, the owners maybe had it for 18 or 19 or 20 years. They may be interested in a 1031 exchange where they sell that property to you and then they go buy another like kind property so they don't have to pay the capital gains tax on the increase of the value of the property, right? Like you can find people in situations where they'll be willing to do that for you. You can also find situations where those owners would be willing to mentor you. There's a lot of money that you can make in these kinds of situations that you may not even realize because you're looking over here at the big shiny over here, but there's lots of pockets and money over there that is just waiting for somebody to come in. There are a lot of people. And the more mature I get, the older I get, okay? The older I get, the more I realize the power of mentoring. There are a lot of people out there who want to mentor the next generation. What I do today may not last, but the impact I have in your life, that can be an eternal impact because whatever I impact you goes and impacts your children and their children and their children. Okay. And so when you hit that slope and you're closer to the end of your life than the beginning of your life, you become more receptive to that. And a lot of you who are new investors, watching this either live or later on, you may not understand this dynamic, but if you will just trust me on this and you will go back and approach and build the relationships and make the deal, you can find a lot of really juicy deals right in your own backyard. It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful strategy. And again, we're going to talk more about this throughout the course of the year. I hope you will sign up for our DART method of real estate investing class that you can find at buildingwealthtogether.com. All right, now we're going to talk about land. And land, again, is a subset of commercial. And what I like about land is there's a lot of it. But here's the thing about land. They're not making more of it. So, this is what makes land valuable. Now, I will say that undeveloped land, raw land, is a very versatile investment because there's a lot you can do with it, but it's also very risky, okay? You don't get a whole lot of benefit on your taxes. You can't depreciate that land because it doesn't depreciate. It's land, right? Like when you own real estate, you every year on your taxes, you depreciate the value some because it gets used up, it wears out and all that kind of stuff. And so you get a big benefit on your taxes for that, right? But land, it doesn't do that. And so so you got to be careful with your planning on that. Another thing about land is that it's really hard to sell land in a hurry, okay? Because it's hard to get land at a discount. And it's hard to sell land in a hurry because in order for somebody to buy land, they usually can't just go out and get a loan, just a random loan to get a land. There's a lot of machinations that have to happen in order to get a loan to buy land, okay? Now, what I have found as a financial planner is that a lot of people who buy land are actually in a negative cash flow. And I want to encourage you, don't do this, okay? Don't buy the land and be like, oh, well, I'm going to, put this on it and that on it. I'm going to put a billboard on it. I'm going to do all these things on it. And it's going to be so profitable and I'm just going to make millions. Or here's what the other thing that people do. The other thing that people do is I'm going to buy this land because they're not making more land, true statement. And land is going to go up in price, generally true statement. And one day I'm going to be a multimillionaire because I have this plot of land. May not be true. In fact, one of the things that I have found working with churches over the last 20 years is that a lot of times when people donate land to a church, it's land that was really unsuitable for a lot of purposes. And you might find a spot where you can build your church, but you run that perk test and you find out that land is just really, really wonky. Okay. And so you got to just keep in mind that land is not this big panacea. It's no easy button to make you build wealth. Okay. But there are a lot of ways to profit from land. All right. A lot of ways to profit from land. Okay. You could hold it. You could just grab it and hold it and wait for the value to go up. Right. You could subdivide the land or develop it. You could be the developer or facilitate another developer coming into the land. We're going to talk about deal making at the end. We're going to talk about deal making. You can take a look at what's going on in the community and buy land that the community has a planned change coming. You can go to those meetings. They do those meetings whenever what do they call them? Different jurisdictions, they call them different things, but like the community planning meetings, they do they're basically the meetings that talk about what's coming, what's going to be built, what changes are going to come. We're going to turn like my property in Brandywine. They built an overpass and capped off the road. So when I bought the house where my son was, where we had my first son, you could pull off of Branch Avenue, go on to Brandywine and swing around the corner and go home. Easy peasy. Now you can't do that. That little piece is capped off right there. And so we were actually trying to buy this little, let me put it back on me here. We were actually trying to buy a plot of land by that intersection. And then across from that was a little ice cream store that we thought was the perfect size for a small church. So we were trying to buy both of those. The plot of land had a billboard on it and they were offering that plot of land for $1 million, which was reasonable considering the billboard and the high amount of traffic that was going through every day coming out of that road. Well, when we went to the planning meeting, and again, I forget the official name, but we went to the planning meeting and we saw that they were going to cap the road off. They were going to make it an overpass. And then further back, way past our house, they were going to extend out the roads so that you could go north or south but you couldn't go straight. Well, that plot of land is no longer worth $1 million because ain't nobody going to be driving there anymore. Okay. So it's important to go through these things and really understand what's happening in the jurisdiction that you're thinking about buying land. But if you know that they're going to do a new shopping center over here, then you can start buying up other little pieces of land near that before anybody even knows what's coming, because they announce these things years out, right? So there's ways that you can speculate on that, okay? If you have a plot of land, you can rent out space. You can use it for boat storage. You can use it for a billboard. When I was going through that negotiation with that billboard owner, because the owner, there's a land owner, and then there's the person who's renting the billboard from the land. And so in the process of buying the land, we had to renegotiate the deal with the billboard owner. I found out that those can be profitable, but man, those people have everything so airtight. I don't know that it often is. Okay. But it's a way you could rent out the space. A lot of people do RV or boat storage. Okay. Because people need a place to put their stuff, and you put up a fence and you're not responsible for anything that's lost or anything, and you rent out the space, and easy peasy, I mean, it's a win-win. Deal making, again, like I mentioned before, and we'll talk a little bit more at the end, but again, with land, please make your money when you buy. I understand that a lot of people they find the perfect plot of land that they're going to retire on. And they're like, oh, this is going to be my retirement house, my forever house. And we're going to just pay on this land for the next 20 years. And I mean, you could do that. I'm not a big fan of that. Okay. That's the only situation where I would say pay for land, I'm just worried that most people that come to me, it's a real thorn in their flesh. And then when they need the money in a hurry, they can't get it in a hurry. Okay. So just watch out for that. The next thing that we are going to talk about is private lending. And you might say to yourself, why on earth would a financial planner who teaches get out of debt and stay out of debt, why would she talk about private lending? Well, I'm going to talk to you about private lending for two reasons. The first reason is I wouldn't feel that I am a valid educator of real estate transactions and investment if I didn't at least explain how private lending works. Okay. That's the first reason. I feel like to complete your education, you need to understand this. I'll also, when we do our private lending 101 class, I'll also dig more deeply into the reasons why I recommend this or that or the other with regards to private lending. Okay. But just suffice it to say, when it comes to lending, it's important to understand the totality. So, when you talk with other investors, you know what they're talking about, right? I want your education to be complete. But also the same processes we use to structure a private lending deal are also the structures that we use to underpin the other kinds of deals that I talk about in our more advanced class. Okay. So we're not leveraging debt, but we need to understand how the money works. Now, I don't have it next to me. Okay. The private lending class that I teach is a hybrid of my experience and my education and Alan Cowgill's Private Lending Made Easy course. So when you buy my advanced course on private lending, you actually are getting a seat in his course so that you can understand the foundation. And then we bring you in and we dig deeper in my course as to how you do these things that you need to do without taking on more debt. Okay. Because I don't want you to have stuff over your head that makes it hard for you to sleep at night. And as an investor, I don't want you to be in a position between a rock and a hard place where you have to compromise your integrity in order to make a deal work. I see that happen time and time and time again. Investor falls on hard times. They got all these mortgages they got to pay. And so they compromise. And I don't want you to compromise. I want you to do things decently and in order and to walk within the calling that God has called you to do. All right. And you can't do that if you're walking in, if you're walking in failure, if you're walking in a lack of integrity. Okay. So private lending, some of you will notice if you were on at the beginning, was on the time money continuum twice. Okay. It was on there for the low dollar amounts. It was also on there for the high dollar amounts. Okay. So at the low dollar side, This is the example of the lady that did the last flip before I realized, hey, I can do this on my own. I took my money and pulled it with other people's money, and she took all that money and she went and renovated the house. We as investors invested our money with her for a 12% return on investment. Okay. She took our money, fixed up the property, sold the property, paid us off, pocketed the difference. Only for those of you who were on earlier, she didn't actually pay us off. That's why I realized I could do this. All right. All right. So the high dollar amounts is where you are actually being the private lender to somebody else's deal. So private mortgages, hard money lending, those kinds of things. Okay. And so, like I said before, I'm teaching you these things not because I want you to go out there and get caught up in pulling money from other investors and then owing these debts to them. Okay. I don't necessarily want you to do that. Now, I don't have a problem if you want to pull your money with somebody else and they know what they're doing. I don't have a problem with you doing that, but there's a right and a wrong way to do it that protects your equity and protects your family's equity. And at the end of the day, that's really what it's about. At the end of the day, it's about, is what you doing making life better for your family, or is it making life worse for your family? Too many of us engage in these things and we throw these terms around, leverage other people's money, and we do all these things, but we are actually making life worse for our family. Okay. I lost a lot of people when I started talking about the sales pitch. I guess they thought I was going to start selling them into the class. No, I'm going to sell you into the class later. We're going to do a private lending 101, and then I'm going to sell you into the expensive private lending class. All right. Right now, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about note buying, and we're going to spend just a little bit of time on this because this is not my strong suit, but it's the next one I want to tackle. Like I was doing tax liens for the last 4 years. I'm big on sub 2 this year. And my next one on my list is to really get into note buying. Okay. But I'm not going to teach a deep dive on note buying. If there's enough interest, I will bring somebody in to teach a deep dive on note buying. Okay. So with note buying, what you're doing is you're buying underperforming notes. You could buy performing notes as well, but you're basically buying the note that somebody else has established with a lender. Okay. I buy my house and I'm paying the bank a mortgage. I pay the bank a mortgage. All right. And that mortgage instrument that writes out all the things that I owe and what the bank can do and can't do, that is the note. Okay. And so investor X comes along and they buy the note from the bank, and the bank says, yeah, I'll sell you that note because now I can free this up and I can go do something else. The bank doesn't have to worry about it anymore. Okay. So that's why you usually do underperforming, because you're going to do something to it to make it more profitable. All right. But it doesn't have to be non-performing. But with underperforming, let's say I'm not paying my mortgage. The bank hasn't gotten any money out of me in a year. Investor X comes along and says, hey, I'll give you $40,000 for that note that JJ isn't paying her $100,000 note. The bank says, you know what? Some money's better than no money. Go ahead. And they let investor X buy that note. And what investor X will do is come to JJ and say, hey, let's get you paying your thing again. And this is why I really like note buying, even though I don't like debt. Okay. Because there's a lot of people who've fallen on hard times and they need something. They need some help. Okay. Let me go back. Let me go back just a second. Okay. Let me go back just a second. Well, when it comes to note buying, I want to say that again. When it comes to note buying, one of the reasons that I really like this technique is because it allows you to help people who are on hard times by restructuring their loan. It is a win-win-win. You as the investor buy the loan from an entity that is not getting paid, the bank, another investor, whoever holds the note. They're not getting paid. They sell you the right to collect payment. You buy the right to collect payment from them. They got some money in their pocket. They go off. They're happy. You've got this right to get paid. You go to the person who's not paying and you find a way to work it out where they can pay, or you collect the property because they're not paying. All right. Either way, it's a win for you. But what I really like with this strategy is to make it a win also for the person who can't pay. Okay. So what you do is you're buying these underperforming notes and you are either going to get them to start paying. So you collect it, right? You start getting that payment. But if you see clearly that they are not able to pay, you might be able to restructure. Okay. So I buy a note. They owe $100,000 on the property. They haven't been paying in 2 years. The bank doesn't want to go through the rigmarole of foreclosing. So I buy the note from the bank at, let's say, $30,000. Okay. I go to the homeowner and I try to get them to start paying again. I see that their finances no longer support it. Maybe the husband or wife has died and their income levels have dropped. What I can do then is restructure the note. So in that particular situation, I might say, well, you know what? I paid $30,000 for this note. They owe $100,000. They ain't never gonna pay me no $100,000. They can't barely pay their bills. I'm gonna restructure this note, $50,000 for 30 years. So their clock starts over, right? Like they could have owned their house if they kept paying for 10 more years with the bank, right? But life happened. I'm going to restructure the note, $50,000. So now you're saving 50% of the price of what you were supposed to pay for your house. I'm stretching it out. So they're actually really not saving anything, but they don't know that. Oh, that didn't come out right. But you know what I'm saying? Oh, goodness. I'm stretching it out, right? I'm stretching it. Well, because if people could do math, let's be real. If people could do math, they wouldn't get in most of the financial troubles that they're getting in. And the way I look at it as an ethical investor, if I don't get in there and profit from the situation and actually help people, somebody else is going to get in there and they're going to profit from the situation, but they're probably going to hurt people. Okay. So when I make these little jokes, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm not trying to be flippant about it, but let's be real about it. Somebody's not paying their bills. Somebody else is going to come in there and take advantage of them. And so in this situation, I would probably restructure that loan down and make it lower and then give them an opportunity to start paying again. Okay. And so if they do, great. If they don't, I get the property. And another thing you can do with loans, just like anything else that we do in real estate, you can always get something under contract and wholesale it to another investor. Okay. Some of the pros with note buying: you've got the property as collateral. That's a great thing, right? You can control the property while you're getting things, you can control the property without having to actually buy the property, right? You have a level of interest in the property without having to buy the property. Okay. So that's a great Benny, right? You can get cash flow even if you don't have to deal with tenants, right? Okay. Because you can make money on the property without dealing with the tenants, or make money on the property. If you're buying the note, you can make money on the property and by selling the note, and you never have to put a tenant in there, right? And notes are very versatile. Like I was saying earlier, you can flip them by fixing it. Like I talked about restructuring. You can flip it, you can wholesale it, you can refinance, you can do all kinds of things with a loan. But there are some drawbacks to note buying. Okay. There's a lot of risks to be had with note buying, because depending on what you buy, you might actually get wiped by what they call getting wiped by the foreclosure or bankruptcy. So maybe you buy a second note and whoever owns the first note forces a foreclosure, or the owner declares bankruptcy and you get wiped. Okay. Your investment's gone. Also, I have noticed in the investors that I have talked with that note buying is very much a learn by experience niche. So if you're not the kind of person that learns well by experience, this may not be where you want to start, especially if you don't have anybody in your circle that's done it before that can really kind of help you get through it. I have also found that there are a couple companies out there that will sell notes, but very few of these companies that I've run into will actually mentor you without you laying out an extreme amount of money to be part of their programs. Okay. So some keys to success with note buying that I have observed, and again, this is book knowledge and what I've observed in others talking. If you want to dig more into detail, I can put you in contact with somebody who can actually teach you more about this. All right. But the things that I have observed in other investors is that with note buying, once you're successful in executing a note buying deal, you actually find more people who own notes and want to unload them coming to you. So this is one of those success breeds more success kinds of things. You do it right, and then everybody knows you're doing it right, and then they come to you to get more done. All right. You got to be easy to work with in this field, because there's a lot of things that happen and a lot of complicated, and it's all about relationships. And I highly, 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 highly recommend getting educated first before jumping into a note buying deal. All right. All right. Just another quick reminder. If I haven't said it enough times today, this is our annual Global Youth Initiative fundraiser. We highly, highly encourage you to Cash App Queen of Cash Flow, PayPal me, ministerwiggins.com if you just want to do regular PayPal, friends and family. Okay, that is how we support our Global Youth Initiative of Northwest Louisiana, and coming soon, Global Youth Initiative of Erath County. All right, so we encourage you to help us with that. If you've enjoyed today's class, drop me $5, $10, $20. Every little bit helps. Okay, it costs me about $20 to $30 per teenager to do Global Youth Initiative, and we try to do 30 to 40 youth a year. So that didn't come out right, but we try to bring 30 to 40 youth per year in each session. So I guess that's really like 60 to 80 youth per year. So come on out and help us with that. All right, our last topic that we're going to really talk about today is deal making. And I know this has gotten long. But I hope that you have seen the value in what we're doing. Okay. All throughout this discussion, one of the things that I have been highlighting is the need to have relationships, and how many of these processes really are done through relationships. Okay. And that's where the deal making comes through. Even if you don't want to buy a note, you don't want to landlord, you don't want to flip, you don't want to stage, you don't want to be a realtor, you don't want to do any of those things. Maybe in your personality set, you are a better deal maker. And the best way to make deals is to go for the win-win-win. You are bringing people together for their profit in a way that profits you. And like I said earlier, the numbers, if they work on a property, that property is going to sell fast. And so because of this, one of the biggest assets an investor has is actually their relationships, and being able to bring together people who need your ability to make a deal. Okay. Your relationships that you have and your networking, that's how you're going to uncover the hidden gems that others miss. And that's why I call relationships and deal making the investor's secret weapon. See, people think real estate investing is all about throwing money at a problem. Real estate investing is actually about building relationships with other investors, with trades, and with individuals who might buy and or sell your properties. And the way you build these relationships, especially with other investors, is to attend meetings where other investors are. That's why I highly recommend that you go to Real Estate Investment Association meetings. You might also see it, the term REIG, for Real Estate Investment Group. And these groups offer an excellent way for you to learn about real estate. Okay. So a lot of these groups have deal making sessions. They'll help you build your team of professionals. They will help you learn what you need to learn. Hang on just a second. Try not to cough into the mic there. These investors groups will help you learn what you need to learn. Okay. This is where you want to really take the time to get to know your investors and trades. Okay. Now, I'm going to tell you, I've been to many, many different real estate investment groups. I'm still a member of several groups throughout Louisiana, Texas, Maryland, Pennsylvania, because I value those relationships that I've built, and I still have properties in different locations. Okay. I'm trying to consolidate everything and sell it off and focus on Texas. But right now I still have those things, and I still value the mentorship of those relationships as well. Okay. So these relationships, when you go to these meetings though, you got to watch out for people who's really walking the walk and who's just talking the talk. Okay. You're going to find in a lot of these meetings, a lot of people doing a lot of things, but they ain't making a lot of money. And they might be making a lot of money right now, but come COVID, they're not making money anymore. And that's one of the things. Like, I have a blog on Bigger Pockets, and I have been a member of many real estate groups, but a lot of investors laughed at me because I preach a no debt or a debt avoidance investment strategy. And so I think to myself, okay, well, who's been laughing over the last year? Because your properties aren't bringing in income right now, and you got all these mortgages. Now, not every landlord is having problems with rentals. Some of us, our renters are still paying, right? If those properties are not, they don't fall under the CARES Act. That's what I told all of my renters, because that first month, everybody stopped paying. And I was like, just so you know, I was like, just so you know, this property is not subject to the CARES Act, because it was, the situation that we're in. But a lot of people who have something to say about investing debt free are really hurting right now. They've leveraged and they've over leveraged, and they don't have anything to lean on. And people are filing bankruptcy because they followed the traditional guidance that said, oh, just, it'll be okay. It'll be okay. Real estate always goes up. People always need a place to live. People always rent your property. Okay. It's not always true. Okay. So you need to know who's walking the walk and who's truly built wealth, not who's just a hot flash in the pan right now. Okay. One caution on real estate investment groups is you've got to watch out for the sales pitches. I mean, that is the model. These are groups, these are businesses. They're not just, fun time. Okay, some of them are, some groups you might go to, it's just a fun time of individuals together. But for the most part, these are businesses. And so the model is just like with my classes. I teach a free class. I invite you to dig deeper with a smaller paid class. If you like the smaller paid class, I invite you to dig even more deeply with a more expensive class that takes more of my time and energy. And because it takes more of my time and energy, I ask you to compensate me, right? And so a really good sales pitch, you sit in that audience and, you just want to take out that card and buy everything they're selling because it sounds so good. But you got to watch out for that, because it does sound so good and it will work. But if you keep buying class after class after class after class, you are never going to profit. You need to take something and work with it and actually start to profit from it and actually learn whether it's good for you or not. So I want to address real quick why anybody would even do this. Like, why would you, if there's a limited amount of real estate in Stephenville, Texas, why would anybody train anybody else on how to find real estate in Stephenville, Texas? Okay. Well, for one, you could call it the golden rule. You kind of see the energy you put out, you put it back, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, right? You might call it that, but it's also profitable. Okay. It's profitable to train other people to do what you do, because guess what? If you're an investor that has more money than time, and you train other investors how to find good properties, well, guess who they're going to bring those properties to? Okay. And the same with me. If I find a great deal that I can't use because of the timing, the situation, or whatever, who do I send that to first? I send that to my mentors. Either they want to buy it or they'll know somebody who does. Okay. And so that's actually how I profit from teaching free classes. This particular class is our fundraiser for Global Youth Initiative. But the way I profit from teaching all my classes free, nothing is really free. Free is not free. Okay. I teach you class free. I give you some good value for free. The model is you enjoy the free stuff. You feel like, yeah, I can do that. You drop yourself into the class to learn a little bit more about it. And if it really resonates with your soul, then you drop yourself into the next step. You invest in the next step. And that's the model. That's the model. That's how it works, right? That's how it works. It's a profitable model. But not only that, now you are building up an army of people who are doing what you want to do. And you are building up an army of people who are going to help you. Okay. So real estate, don't be afraid of real estate investment meetings just because they got somebody up there selling something at every meeting. Take your notes, find out what works for you, and then start from there. Okay. So now one more warning that I want to make about real estate investment associations before we go. Okay. You are going to want a good quality group. Usually will have some membership fees. Okay. And for mentorship, to get somebody to really help you, you should expect to pay something for that. Some people are just, we're all in this together. We're having a weekly mastermind. We're a group of friends who invest. We get together and we want to do this, and that's great. And that's great. That's fine. But, most of the time, me and you, we're new. We don't know anybody in the area, whatever. We're usually going to have to pay for hands-on mentorship. And I don't want you to be afraid of that. Okay. I don't want you to be afraid of that, because if you stop and think about it for a second, okay, like my tax sales class. I have a tax sales class. I launched it 2 years ago. And we did a free class like this, and we're going to do a free class like this in a couple months, right? We're going to talk about tax sales. And the people that want to learn more, the next class, I think it was like $200 or $300, and we sit in a classroom all morning and we go through all the documentation. We walk through the process. I show you this, I show you that, and depending on where I'm teaching that class, if I'm on the East Coast, I'm using the Maryland documents. If I'm in Louisiana, we're doing tax certificates. I'm talking about those. If we're in Texas, it's tax deeds. So we're talking about those, right? So I customize it to the group. I don't know what I'm going to do when it's virtual. I don't know. We'll have to figure that out. But we do that. And if you're like, wow, I can do this, JJ, I want to walk with you. Then the next step is, okay, let's go. Let's set everything up. We'll go through this next tax sale together. It only happens once a year. But think about this. When I'm helping you get ready for the tax sale, now I'm not getting ready for my tax sale because I'm trying to find stuff. I'm helping you and I'm helping me, and I'm going to try to do it all. But there's some decrease. And if I'm walking with you to the courthouse and we're digging through all the paperwork together and we're driving for dollars, now my kids are missing some playtime with mommy. And I got a 5-year-old and a 15-year-old, and I'm gonna tell you, the 15-year-old gets just as excited about playing video games and watching Mandalorian with mom as a 5-year-old does. So you will take time for my boys. I want to be compensated for that time, and that's why I'm going to encourage you, whatever market you're in, find somebody who's doing the thing. And don't be afraid to pay them for hands-on mentorship. Just make sure they're doing the thing. There's a lot of people making money that just want to get your money and get your hopes all up. Okay. So how to spot a real, a RIA scam. Okay. One way that it's probably not the organization that's going to help you in this state of your investing career is that you have to pay before you can even get to know what they're doing. Okay. If they have a pay gate before you can even peek under the hood, then that's usually a sign that either they're not on the up and up, or they are probably too advanced for a new investor. If they're saying you got to drop $200 before you can even get to know who, you even meet the person who's in charge of the group, or who's teaching that night, or who's running this or running that. I mean, there's certain things that you need to know before you drop your money into something. And this exclusive community. Well, it may just be that they're just getting you in there and they're going to keep asking you for more and more money. You already passed the I'll pay for anything test when you dropped your $200 without knowing anything about the group. Okay. So you want to keep a lookout for that. When you get into the meetings, if you see that they don't offer any real content, but it's just sales pitches, okay, then that is not necessarily a group you want to be associated with. Okay. Because that may be great for people who know what they want to buy, and they're just going to learn and work for that particular person. But most likely what that group is doing is simply becoming a vehicle for these national speakers to sell their courses and take their cut of the profit. And what you need at this stage in your real estate investing, if you're the new person that I'm talking to, you need somebody that's actually going to teach you what to do. Another thing to watch out for when you're trying to find a good real estate investment group is you need to avoid groups that don't leave any room for real questions. They're now pay to play is a real thing. And like I said before, don't be afraid to pay for mentorship. I remember the first time I paid somebody for their lease, and it was $200, and that was a lot of money to me back then. Never mind the fact that I was renovating a whole house with cash, right? Like that extra $200 was a lot to me right then, right? And so I was really fearful of doing so, and we sat in the Whole Foods, and she went through the lease with me, and then we walked out there. And she went through my property and she was like, this, that. I tell you what, I got my $200 worth and then some. All right. So don't be afraid to pay for mentoring. But now, if every question you have requires payment, that is probably a group that is built more on getting money out of people's pockets than making money through real estate investing. The other thing that I encourage you to watch out, not encourage, the other thing I want you to run from when you see it in a real estate investment group is that feedback isn't addressed. Okay. So when you have a group that promises, hey, we have this members only website where you can ask questions, and you can do this and you can do that, and you can download that, and you can watch this and you can watch that. When you have those promises and you join and they don't have it working, and you say, hey, this isn't working, and they tell you, oh no, it hasn't been working for 6 months. So you haven't had a forum for users to ask questions for 6 months, but for the last 3 months you've been saying we have this, and you're still going to advertise that you have this, but you don't have this. That's unethical. And I know some of you are probably like, JJ, it's sales. It's sales. It's not a big deal. It is a big deal to me. And you say, well, you can't get anything out of life without being a little dishonest. I have a whole group of people in my Building Wealth Together group that make their money with integrity. And I'm encouraging you to walk in integrity. So those are some things to watch out for when it comes to real estate investing associations. I really do believe that education is key. You want to look for a group that offers education. But the most important thing I want you to take away from this today that I've talked with you, we've been on the line for quite a bit, but I hope that it's been super valuable for you, is that it's never too late. It is never too late for you to succeed with real estate investing, okay? It is never too late to dump debt, build wealth, and leave a legacy. Yes, there is an advantage of youth, okay? Youth, they've got strength, they've got energy, they don't have to deal with this disease or that injury, okay? But let me tell you about what maturity brings to the table, okay? When you're a mature person, you have experience. When you're a mature person, you have networking ability. You have the ability to make a solid judgment. You can read people. You've been there and done that. You've seen a thing or two, so you know a thing or two. All right? You cannot discount that. Maybe your best days, strength-wise and health-wise, are behind you, but your best days overall are still ahead of you. It is never too late to make an impact, and it is never too late to succeed with real estate investing. All right, one last pitch that I'm going to make, y'all. This is our fundraiser for Global Youth Initiative. So I hope that you will support by PayPaling ministerwiggins@gmail.com. You can Cash App Queen of Cashflow or go to bit.ly/lovehelping. Okay. We appreciate that if you will do that. And I want to leave you with one last encouragement. Okay. Let me put this up on the screen here. Okay. It doesn't matter what happened in the past. Let's put the past in the past. Okay. Whatever's happened has happened. Whatever's got you down. Maybe you had a divorce. I've been there. Maybe you had bankruptcy. I tell you, with $845,000 of debt, I almost filed bankruptcy. Maybe you've lost your breadwinner, not through divorce, but maybe through death. Maybe you had a series of car accidents. Man, I've been there. Okay. Real estate investing can help you overcome all of these struggles, and it can help you create a life that will allow you to live the life that you have dreamed of. It's never too late to dump debt, build wealth, and leave a legacy. I'm JJ Conway. I want to thank you for watching. Y'all take care and be blessed.